At just 12 years old, Gon dreams of becoming the greatest hunter in the world. His motivation stems from a deeply personal quest to find his father, a legendary hunter who abandoned him as a baby. Gon knows little about his mother, but his father's reputation and mysterious choice to leave him behind fuel his determination. Gon wants to uncover why his father chose this path and left him to be raised by others. To achieve his goal, Gon embarks on an extraordinary journey, starting with the rigorous hunter exam, the first step toward becoming a hunter. His adventure begins aboard a ship heading to the exam location. During the voyage, Gon notices something unusual. The birds in the sky are flying erratically, and there's a strange smell in the air. Trusting his instincts, he climbs to the ship's deck and warns the captain about an incoming storm. Moments later, a violent storm strikes, testing the crew's resolve. Thanks to Gon's warning, the ship avoids disaster, but the ordeal leaves its passengers shaken. When the storm subsides, the captain inspects the passengers and discovers something shocking. Most of them couldn't withstand the storm's intensity. Only Gon and 2 others remain standing. The captain reveals a surprising truth. The hunter exam had already begun, and he is one of its overseers. All other passengers have failed, leaving only 3 successful candidates: Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio. The trio gathers and begins to learn about each other's motivations. Kurapika, driven by a desire for revenge, he seeks to become a hunter to track down the criminal group that wiped out his entire clan. Leorio, his goal is purely financial. Becoming a hunter offers the opportunity to amass great wealth. Gon, he shares his personal quest to find his father and understand why he chose to become a hunter. After bonding, the 3 arrive at the port of the country where the next phase of the hunter exam will take place. After disembarking from the ship, the captain calls Gon and tells him that he has something important to say and that he must follow his instructions immediately. The captain points to a distant spot near the harbor where a tree stands and tells Gon to go there, as that is where the test will take place. Gon, however, is unsure if this is truly the test location or if someone there will provide further directions. Gon and the others head to the location mentioned by the captain and find a house in the middle of the forest. They enter the house, only to be shocked by what they see. A magical beast has invaded the house and attacked its inhabitants, a man and a girl. The man lies on the floor, drenched in blood, while the beast holds the girl. As soon as they enter, the beast flees, taking the girl with him. Kurapika and Gon immediately chase after the beast, while Leorio stays behind to tend to the man's injuries. During the chase, Kurapika warns Gon, explaining that this type of beast can easily transform into a human form. Additionally, unlike most other beasts, it possesses a high level of intelligence, allowing it to understand and even speak human language. Gon manages to catch up with the beast and strikes it, causing the girl to fall from its grasp. Kurapika quickly grabs the girl, but before Gon can react further, the beast suddenly vanishes before his eyes. Moments later, another beast appears and approaches Gon, who immediately tells it that it is not the same beast he had been chasing. The beast is taken aback by Gon's remark and bursts into laughter, calling another beast to join them. To Gon and Kurapika's surprise, the man and the girl from the house also appear with the beasts. It is then revealed that the beasts were part of the test, tasked with guiding them to the actual test location after conducting a preliminary evaluation. Gon and the others realize they have successfully passed this hidden test. Following the beasts, they are led to an unexpected test site, a shabby restaurant. Leorio is skeptical, exclaiming that this is the place where hundreds of people from around the world gather to become hunters. Upon entering, the supervisor whispers a secret code to the restaurant owner, granting them access to a hidden room. Inside, the guide informs them that his task is now complete and bids them farewell. As soon as he leaves, the room begins to shake and move, revealing itself to be an elevator descending to the real test site. When the doors open, they are astonished to see the sheer number of participants gathered for the exam. Each contestant receives a number upon entering. While waiting, something strange happens. A participant's hands suddenly begin to vanish after colliding with another participant named Hisoka. Whispers spread among the group, revealing that Hisoka had participated in the exam before, but was disqualified for attempting to kill one of the examiners, shocking everyone. Shortly after, the examiner for the first phase of the test arrives. He explains that the first phase is simple. All they need to do is follow him to reach the next stage. The participants are skeptical about the simplicity of this task, but the examiner assures them it is as straightforward as it sounds. The examiner begins walking, and the participants follow closely. However, his pace soon increases, forcing them to run after him. No one knows how far they will have to go or what lies ahead, but it becomes clear that this is a test of endurance. During the run, Gon befriends a boy his age named Killua. Gon asks Killua why he joined the test, to which Killua responds that he had heard about its difficulty and decided to take it for the thrill. However, he admits he finds it boring, and not as challenging as expected. The two then turn it into a race to see who can reach the destination first. The nature of the test shifts from running to climbing stairs. Meanwhile, Kurapika shares his tragic past with Leorio, explaining why his clan was targeted. The Kurta clan possessed scarlet eyes that turned a brilliant red when experiencing intense emotions, considered one of the 7 most beautiful colors in the world. This rarity led a criminal organization known as the Spider Gang to massacre his clan, steal their eyes, and sell them on the black market for exorbitant prices. Kurapika reveals that he is the sole survivor of his clan, and has dedicated himself to becoming a hunter to seek vengeance on the Spider Gang. Leorio also opens up, revealing that his goal isn't solely about money, as others believe. Money is just one of many objectives. He recounts a painful memory of losing a friend who died in front of him because Leorio couldn't afford the necessary medical treatment. This experience drove him to study medicine, aspiring to help others and prevent such tragedies from happening again. The race finally nears its end, with Gon and Killua finishing at nearly the same time. However, the race proves challenging for many other participants, including Kurapika and Leorio, who nonetheless managed to reach the finish line successfully. Afterward, they arrive at a foggy area called the Swindler's Swamp, known for being inhabited by cunning and deceitful creatures that use every trick to mislead humans. The examiner explains that the objective of this phase is to escape the swamp within a set time limit. Suddenly, a man appears, claiming that the examiner in front of them is actually a disguised, deceptive beast. Chaos ensues as the examiner and Hisoka simultaneously attack the alleged imposter, who falls dead. The participants are shocked, but Hisoka reassures them that the examiners are skilled hunters capable of dealing with such threats. It turns out that the man who appeared was indeed one of the swamp's creatures, confirming the dangers of this place. The examiner then tells them that they have witnessed the swamp's reality firsthand, and that anyone who wants to survive should stick with him. They proceed deeper into the swamp, but a group of participants conspires to eliminate Hisoka and Killua. Gon notices this and warns Killua, leading them to distance themselves from the group. Meanwhile, other participants begin to fall victim to the swamp, one after another. Gon and Killua also get caught in a trap but manage to escape. Gon expresses concern for his friends, but Killua reassures him that they are likely continuing on their own paths. Elsewhere, Kurapika and Leorio encounter a giant beast that attacks them, but they manage to kill it. Shortly after, Leorio notices a group of participants surrounding Hisoka. With a single attack using his playing cards, Hisoka effortlessly defeats them, leaving Kurapika and Leorio in awe of his power. Hisoka notices them and asks if they would like to join his group. Terrified, Kurapika and Leorio quickly flee, but Leorio eventually returns, declaring that he is not a coward and does not fear Hisoka. Leorio attacks Hisoka, but Hisoka calmly dodges his strikes. When Hisoka counterattacks, Gon intervenes, blocking the strike and saving Leorio. Leorio attacks again, but is overpowered by Hisoka, who knocks him to the ground. Gon steps in to fight but is caught by Hisoka, who lifts him by the neck. However, Hisoka unexpectedly lets Gon go, stating that he has no intention of killing him or Leorio. Just then, Hisoka receives a call from a friend, signaling that their business is complete. He picks up the unconscious Leorio and departs. Kurapika returns to Gon, and together they track Hisoka's path using Leorio's scent, eventually rejoining the other participants. The examiner then announces the completion of the first phase of the test and introduces the second phase, which involves a cooking competition. However, no one succeeds due to unfair judging. The head of the examiner's committee intervenes, overturning the results and allowing all participants to pass. They then board an airship, which will transport them to the third phase of the test. During the flight, Killua confides in Gon, revealing that he comes from a family of assassins. Despite his talent, he has no desire to become a killer. He explains that he told his family he wanted to choose his own path, but they refused, leading to a confrontation where he stabbed his mother and brother before fleeing. Suddenly, the head examiner appears before them, announcing that he wants to have some fun. He takes out a ball and challenges them to try and take it from him. Killua uses his family's special techniques, creating multiple illusions to distract the examiner, but the examiner effortlessly counters his tricks. Gon also tries his best, but fails to seize the ball. The following morning, the airship arrives at the next test location, a towering structure. The objective of this phase is to descend from the top of the tower to the bottom while staying alive, with a time limit of 72 hours. As the test begins, one participant attempts to climb down the tower, but is suddenly attacked by a group of beasts, leading to his demise. The participants begin searching for hidden doors within the tower. Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio gather to discuss their strategy for the test. Eventually, Gon and Killua discover 5 hidden doors. When Leorio opens one, they realize that each door can only be used once. They decide to each choose a separate door, agreeing to meet again at the end of the phase. After saying their goodbyes, they descend through their respective doors, only to find that all the doors lead to the same room. Inside the room, they find 5 wristwatches with symbols for correct and incorrect on them. along with a countdown timer. A voice from a speaker informs them that the test requires 5 people to be present in the room to begin. They wait for 2 hours until a 5th person falls into the room. To their surprise, it is Tonpa, a participant Gon had encountered earlier at the test site. Tonpa is infamous for his 35 failed attempts at the Hunter exam, not because he aims to pass, but because he takes pleasure in sabotaging and demoralizing new participants. Tonpa wears the 5th watch, and the 3rd phase begins. The group must answer a series of true or false questions using their watches, with the majority vote determining their answer. As they explore further, they reach another room, where they find 5 criminals bound in chains. The examiner's voice informs them that each of the 5 participants must face one of the criminals in a one-on-one battle. If at least 3 participants win their battles, they will pass the phase. However, the criminals aim to stall for time, as for every hour that passes, 1 year will be deducted from their sentences. This means the participants must defeat them as quickly as possible. The first battle begins with Tonpa volunteering, much to the team's shock. As Tonpa approaches the arena, the opponent charges at him, but Tonpa instantly surrenders without even being touched. He returns to the group with a smug look, having deliberately caused them a loss. Leorio is furious at Tonpa's cowardice. The second battle is Gon's turn. His opponent, a frail-looking man, proposes an unconventional challenge. Each of them holds a candle, and the person whose candle burns out first loses. To make it more difficult, the opponent offers Gon a choice between a long and a short candle. Gon hesitates, but ultimately chooses the longer candle. However, it becomes clear that the opponent has rigged the challenge. He applied a substance to Gon's candle, causing it to burn faster. Even if Gon had chosen the short candle, the opponent would have swapped it with a similarly rigged one. As Gon's candle nears the end, he has an idea. He places his candle on the ground, rushes toward his opponent, and blows out his candle with a quick breath. This clever move earns Gon victory in the match. The third battle is Kurapika's. His opponent, a muscular man, taunts him, saying he'll make the fight a battle to the death. Kurapika remains unfazed. The opponent tries to intimidate him further by revealing a spider tattoo on his back, the symbol of the Spider Gang, the group responsible for massacring Kurapika's clan. This enrages Kurapika, and his eyes turn scarlet in fury. With unmatched speed and strength, Kurapika overwhelms his opponent and declares, "The true Spider Gang tattoo includes a member number. Never mention their name in front of me again, or I will kill you." Kurapika wins the battle but refuses to deliver a killing blow, as the fight is to the death or surrender. He tells the others, when he wakes up, we'll see what happens. Hours pass, and the opponent remains unconscious, causing doubt. Leorio steps in to confirm if the opponent is alive, and a criminal proposes a wager. They gamble hours from their countdown timers to determine the answer. Leorio bets 10 hours that the opponent is alive, checks his pulse, and confirms his guess, winning the wager. The bets escalate, with Leorio eventually losing a total of 50 hours, which greatly reduces their available time. The final battle falls to Killua. His opponent is a notorious serial killer who has murdered 146 people with his bare hands. Leorio pleads with Killua to withdraw, but Killua calmly approaches the arena, accepting the challenge. The battle is to the death, and it ends almost instantly. Killua uses his incredible speed to rip out his opponent's heart with his bare hand, killing him instantly. He returns to the group unfazed, leaving everyone stunned by his cold efficiency. With 3 victories secured, the group successfully passes this phase of the test. The group is led to a room where they must spend the 50 hours lost in their gamble talking, playing, and passing time. The hours pass, leaving them with only 10 hours to reach the final stage. With just 1 hour left, they face a dilemma. There are 2 paths ahead. 1. The long path, which allows all 5 members to pass together, but would take 40 hours to traverse, far exceeding the time limit. 2. The short path, which takes only 3 minutes but only allows 3 people to proceed, forcing them to sacrifice 2 members. The group realizes the situation could turn dangerous, as everyone is armed and tensions are high. The question looms, would any of them actually kill each other to proceed? Predictably, Tonpa is the first to grab a weapon, attempting to attack Leorio. Leorio defends himself while Kurapika tries to mediate. Meanwhile, Gon notices that every time their weapons strike the walls, they create cracks. This gives him an idea, but the group continues fighting. Time runs out, and it seems the group has failed. However, in a surprising twist, all 5 of them, Gon, Killua, Kurapika, Leorio, and even Tonpa, successfully passed the phase. How? Gon had proposed using their weapons to break through the walls and access the short path without sacrificing anyone. By combining their efforts, they broke through the wall and completed the test with just enough time to spare. End of the 3rd phase. With the 3rd phase completed, the group exits the tower. An examiner congratulates them, informing them that only 2 phases remain in the Hunter exam. The next phase will take place over 7 days on an island, where each participant will be assigned a specific target through a random draw. Each contestant pulls a card from a box to determine their assigned target. The rules are simple. Steal the target's identification disc. You earn 3 points for your own disc, 3 points for your target's disc, and a 1 point for any other disc. A total of 6 points is required to pass. Gon's target is revealed to be 44, Hisoka. The participants board a ship to the island, with Gon descending last. Upon landing, Gon begins tracking Hisoka, but decides he needs to practice catching moving objects first. He spends an entire day trying to catch birds mid-flight, but fails repeatedly. The next day, while observing birds, Gon notices they attack their prey when it is distracted by something else. Using this strategy, Gon successfully catches a bird. At the same time, he realizes someone is watching him. His hand is injured, and butterflies are drawn to the scent of his blood. Gon recalls that Hisoka was injured in the previous phase, and realizes he can use the butterflies to track Hisoka. Using this clever trick, Gon follows the trail to find Hisoka meditating under a tree. Before Gon can act, Hisoka senses his presence and calmly says, "Come out." Gon is stunned, unsure how Hisoka detected him. Hisoka rises, warning Gon that if he doesn't show himself, Hisoka will come to him. Suddenly, another contestant, who had been hiding nearby, attacks Gon. Hisoka does nothing, observing that the man is already mortally wounded. Before the attacker can harm Gon, Hisoka's ally intervenes, killing the attacker with a deadly needle. Hisoka's friend explains that the man was his target, and now that he has completed his task, he will disappear until the test is over. The ally gives Hisoka an extra disc, declaring it unnecessary, and departs. Gon silently continues to observe Hisoka. Elsewhere on the island, Tompa teams up with another participant to steal Leorio's disc. However, Leorio reunites with Kurapika, and together they capture Tompa and his accomplice. It turns out that Tompa was Kurapika's assigned target all along. Kurapika claims his points and passes the phase. Leorio, still without his target's disc, learns that his target is a woman named Ponzu, who specializes in chemical weapons. He and Kurapika set out together to locate her. We return to Hisoka, who finally decides to move, as the night is the perfect environment for him to hunt his prey. He climbs a hill and searches for his target, all while Gon continues to follow him. Hisoka eventually finds his prey, Kurapika and Leorio. Suddenly, he launches an attack on them, and Gon realizes that his friends are Hisoka's targets. Gon runs after Hisoka with all his strength. Hisoka confronts Kurapika and Leorio, who tell him they don't want any trouble and offer him an extra number they have, asking him to leave them alone. Hisoka laughs and agrees. Kurapika places the number on the trunk of a tree, and they leave. Now Hisoka needs only one more point to pass. Gon continues watching him, sensing an overwhelming darkness in the air. Animals flee in fear as Hisoka exudes a bloodthirsty aura, intent on killing anyone in his path. Gon is terrified and wants to run but finds himself unable to move. The two remain in place, unmoving, until morning. Finally, Hisoka starts moving again, and Gon follows him. Gon tries to figure out who Hisoka's next target might be and identifies a location where they might meet. He hides among the trees and waits. Hisoka spots the man and charges at him with incredible speed. At the right moment, Gon uses a thread to snatch the man's number, successfully stealing it. Hisoka is shocked that a child managed to outsmart him. Gon takes Hisoka's number and runs as fast as he can, but suddenly collapses, unsure of what happened. He realizes he has been attacked by a man who shot him with a poisoned arrow. The man takes both numbers and leaves Gon unable to move. Moments later, Gon is shocked to see the man lying dead beside him. It was Hisoka who killed him. Hisoka thanks Gon, saying that the man was his target and that he no longer needs the two numbers. He offers them to Gon, saying, "Now you owe me." However, Gon refuses, stating that he doesn't want to be indebted to anyone. Hisoka tells Gon, "Come back when you can hit me like you did before," and leaves. Gon loses consciousness but later regains his strength and reunites with Kurapika and Leorio. Both Kurapika and Gon have secured enough points to pass, but Leorio is still short. The three form a team to help him find his target. They arrive at a cave, and Leorio decides to enter alone, telling them to wait 30 minutes before following if he doesn't return. After 30 minutes, they hear Leorio shouting, "Don't come in!" Ignoring his warning, Gon and Kurapika rush inside and find Leorio lying on the ground, covered in snake bites. They quickly stop the bleeding, but the cave is filled with venomous snakes. Leorio's target, a woman, appears and tells them the man who set the trap is already dead. She explains that once someone enters the cave, it's nearly impossible to escape. Kurapika suspects the man might have had an antidote, but his body is protected by a swarm of snakes. Summoning his courage, Gon approaches the body, even as snakes wrap around him. Despite this, he retrieves the antidote, and Kurapika administers it, saving Leorio. They then face the problem of escaping the cave, which is surrounded by snakes. Gon asks the woman if she has sleeping gas, and she confirms she does. However, she warns that the gas is so strong it will knock everyone out, including themselves. Gon devises a plan, stating he can hold his breath for 9 minutes. Enough time for the snakes to fall asleep. He successfully carries everyone out of the cave and saves them. Gon takes the woman's number and gives it to Leorio in exchange for saving her, completing Leorio's points. With that, the phase ends, and they return to the exam site for the final stage. The final stage involves one-on-one battles, but with a twist. Instead of progressing through rounds, the winner of each match becomes a hunter. The process will continue until only one person is left, the sole loser, who will fail the exam and leave empty-handed. The rules of the fight are as follows. All methods are allowed, but the only way to win is to make your opponent surrender. If a competitor kills their opponent, they will be disqualified, and the remaining participants will pass. This means that killing is not an option. The opponent must be forced to give up. The first fight is between Gon and a ninja named Hanzo. The match begins, and Gon tries to evade Hanzo, but Hanzo quickly catches up and strikes Gon, causing him to lose his balance and struggle to continue. Hanzo tells Gon to surrender, but Gon refuses, determined not to give up after coming this far. Hanzo continues torturing Gon for 3 hours straight, but Gon still refuses to surrender. Unable to move, Gon faces another threat as Hanzo grabs his arm and warns, "If you don't surrender, I will break your arm." Yet Gon remains resolute. In a shocking turn, Hanzo actually breaks Gon's arm, causing him to scream in agony while his friends watch, unable to bear the scene. Despite the pain, Gon stands back up. Hanzo, frustrated, draws his weapon and warns, "If you don't surrender this time, I will cut off your leg." Gon, unwavering, responds, "I will not surrender no matter what. I will become a hunter and find my father, because if I surrender, I will never find him." Seeing Gon's determination, Hanzo is taken aback and decides to surrender himself, thinking, "This kid will never give up." Gon collapses unconscious, and when he wakes up, he finds himself in a room with the examiner, who informs him that he has passed the hunter exam and gives him his hunter's license. Gon asks who failed the exam, and the examiner tells him that Killua failed because he killed another participant. Gon is shocked, unable to believe that Killua would do such a thing. The examiner then explains everything. After Gon lost consciousness, the second match began between Hisoka and Kurapika. At first, the match proceeded normally, but Hisoka whispered something to Kurapika, and Kurapika immediately surrendered. The matches continued until it was Killua's turn. When Killua's opponent appeared, he began removing needles from his body, revealing his true form. To Killua's shock, the opponent was his older brother, Illumi. Illumi provoked Killua, telling him, "You are not suited to be a hunter. You have no ambition or desire. You were born to be nothing but a killer." Angered, Killua responded, "You're wrong. I do have a goal. I want to be Gon's friend." Illumi dismissed him, saying, "That's impossible. You can never be anyone's friend. You're just a killer." His words pierced Killua like a bullet. Illumi added, "If you're really Gon's friend, I'll go and kill him. Friendship has no place in battle. Friends are just obstacles. I know where Gon is, and I'll kill him." Killua, horrified, screamed, "No!" Illumi continued to provoke him, saying, "I won't kill him now. I'll wait until the exam is over. If you want to save Gon, you'll have to defeat me, but you'll never beat me." Paralyzed by despair, Killua surrendered. Illumi then reassured him, "Don't worry, I was only joking. I'm not going to kill anyone, but you truly don't deserve to be anyone's friend." Overcome with hopelessness, Killua walked away, lost in thought. In a later match between Leorio and another participant, Killua intervened and killed Leorio's opponent, disqualifying himself and ensuring the other participants passed. Determined not to abandon his friend, Gon, along with Kurapika and Leorio, decided to find Killua. Gon approached Illumi and asked where Killua was. Illumi answered that Killua had returned home, explaining that their family lived atop a distant mountain. He warned Gon that reaching the mountain would be nearly impossible. Gon dismissed his warning and left with his friends. Meanwhile, Hisoka overheard the conversation and asked Illumi why he would reveal his family's location. Illumi replied, "Everyone knows where the Zoldyck family lives, but getting inside is nearly impossible. If they manage to get in, it will be a miracle." Hisoka then noticed Illumi's broken arm and asked what happened. Illumi revealed that it was Gon's doing. After the exam ended, during a lecture about the basics of the hunter license, Gon confronted Illumi in a rage. He grabbed Illumi's arm and demanded, "What did you do to your brother? You don't deserve to be his brother. You need to apologize. If you forced him to kill that participant, I'll never forgive you." Illumi tried to grab Gon, but Gon stepped back, and the lecture ended with everyone going their separate ways. Hisoka, amused, noted that there was something mysterious about Gon. However, he warned Illumi, "Don't even think about touching him. He's my prey." We return to Gon and his friends, who are speaking with one of the participants. The participant tells them that the device provided by the examiners can help them find any information they need, now that they are hunters. However, instead of asking for directions to the mountain where Killua's family resides, Gon says, "Search for someone named Gon Freecss," his father. Their friend informs him that information on that name is encrypted and classified. At that moment, one of the examiners overhears them and calls Gon over, saying, "Can I talk to you?" Gon's friends leave, and he sits with the examiner, who says, "By the way, my main work as a hunter is restoring relics and treasures, but one day, I came across a hunter whose dedication to his work was beyond anything I've ever seen. Even as a hunter myself, I was amazed by him and hoped to be like him someday. That person is the same one you're asking about. Gon is overcome with joy and pride for his father, realizing how respected he is. The examiner continues, saying he searched for Ging for a long time but couldn't find him. He adds that if he ever meets Ging, he would like to thank him. Later, Gon rejoins Kurapika and Leorio, and they begin searching for the mountain's location. They find its coordinates, book tickets, and immediately travel there. Upon arriving in the country, they take a bus to the mountain. Finally, they reach it, but at the entrance stands massive gates. The entire mountain is owned by Killua's family, and no one who enters returns alive. As they are talking, two men approach the gatekeeper and threaten him to hand over the gate's key. Reluctantly, the gatekeeper opens the small door, allowing them to enter. Moments later, screams echo from within as the two men are instantly killed by a guard dog named Mike. The group speaks with the gatekeeper, explaining that they are Killua's friends and wish to see him. The gatekeeper is surprised, saying he has worked there for 20 years, and this is the first time visitors have come for the Zoldyck family. He tells them, as you've seen, anyone who approaches the gate is killed by the Zoldyck family's guard dog, but there's only one way to enter, through the testing gate, which is this large gate here. It's always open, but no one can move it. They try to open the gate, but find it far too heavy. The gatekeeper explains, if you can't open it, you can't enter. That's why it's called the testing gate. Even the creatures inside won't attack those who enter through this gate, but opening it is nearly impossible. Each panel of the gate weighs a tremendous amount. The first panel alone weighs 2 tons, 2,000 kilograms. There are 6 additional panels, and with each, the weight doubles. The stronger you are, the more panels you can open, meaning it's all about strength. Gon insists they're not there to be tested, but to see their friend Killua. The gatekeeper tells them it's impossible. This is the only way in. He adds that when Killua returned, he was able to open 3 panels by himself. Gon refuses to accept this and demands the key to the small door. When denied, he attempts to climb the gate, but fails. The gatekeeper offers to call one of the servants inside the mansion to ask for Killua. He makes the call, but the request to see Killua is denied. Gon tries calling himself, but the servants also refuse, telling him that Killua doesn't have any friends. Determined, Gon attempts to climb the gate again, but fails. Seeing his resolve, the gatekeeper comes up with an idea. He offers to enter the gate with Gon so that the guard dog, Mike, recognizes him and doesn't attack. They proceed to the gate, and the gatekeeper calls out Mike. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio are stunned by the dog's immense size. Afterward, the gatekeeper leads them to the guard room and suggests they rest there until they meet Killua. Inside, they meet another gatekeeper, who reiterates that entering is impossible without passing the testing gate. The older gatekeeper agrees and proposes that the 3 train together to open the gate simultaneously. The training is straightforward but grueling. They wear heavy armor while moving around and performing everyday tasks. However, the challenge lies in the weight of the armor, which is 50 kilograms. Everything in the house was incredibly heavy. A single teacup weighed 20 kilograms, without the tea. Adding 40 kilograms of tea brought the total to 60 kilograms. The training began as Gon and his friends worked to carry the heavy weights. Meanwhile, Killua was locked in a cell, being tortured by his mother and brother, who demanded he admit his mistakes. Killua showed no reaction. His brother taunted him, saying Gon was on the mountain, but wouldn't even know how to open the testing gate. You're traveling with people who can't even get close to this place, he mocked. Killua laughed and replied, Gon will open the gate and get here. Days passed as Gon and his friends made significant progress in their training, growing stronger and more accustomed to the heavy weights. Finally, they attempted to open the gate again, but could not budge it. Determined, Gon removed the bandage on his arm and joined his friends in one last effort. Together, they managed to open the gate. They proceeded to the next challenge, reaching the mansion to meet Killua. At the estate's boundary, they encountered a servant girl named Canary. She warned them, go back. Beyond this line is the private property of the mansion, and you need our permission to enter. She drew a line on the ground, adding, anyone who crosses this line will be forced back by me. Gon stepped forward, refusing to back down. Canary struck him repeatedly, but each time, Gon got back up and declared he would not leave until he saw Killua. The cycle continued until Canary grew frustrated and demanded to know why he was so determined. Gon responded that he simply wanted to see his friend. Moved by his words, Canary finally believed in Gon's friendship with Killua. Overwhelmed, she revealed her fondness for Killua and urged Gon to save him. Before she could finish her plea, Killua's mother appeared and struck her from behind. Meanwhile, Killua remained in solitary confinement, shackled and being tortured by his brother Illumi. Illumi told Killua that Gon had opened the gate and entered the estate, but warned that with a single call to their mother, he could have Gon eliminated. Before Illumi could finish, Killua easily broke one of his shackles and coldly replied, if you touch even a single hair on my friends, I'll kill you with my bare hands. Their grandfather interrupted, announcing that Killua's punishment was over and that he was free. Killua removed his remaining shackles with ease, showing that he had allowed the torture to happen willingly. Before leaving, his grandfather informed him that his father wanted to speak with him. News of Killua's release reached his mother, who hurried to intercept Gon and his friends. Canary, having recovered, decided to guide Gon and his friends to the mansion's guard room, where they could meet Killua. At the same time, Killua had a warm conversation with his father, discussing the events of the Hunter exam. His father expressed his desire for Killua to live freely and happily, telling him that he was welcome to return home anytime. Killua promised never to betray his friends and left to meet them. However, as he prepared to leave, Killua's mother tried to stop him, begging him to stay with the family. Killua's determined expression silenced her, and he walked away. Killua arrived at the guard room and asked about Gon. The head servant informed him that Gon was on his way with Canary, and promised to notify him upon their arrival. Gon and his friends soon arrived at the mansion, where they were welcomed by the servants and invited to rest. The head servant suggested playing a game to pass the time, promising that if they won, they could meet Killua. Meanwhile, Killua, growing impatient, left his room to check on Gon and found that his friends had already arrived. He confronted the head servant, who apologized, explaining that he merely wanted to play with Killua. However, Killua realized it was all a setup orchestrated by his mother. The next day, Gon, Killua, and their friends boarded a train for their next adventure. During the journey, Gon declared that he wouldn't use his hunter license until he was strong enough to hit Hisoka like Hisoka had hit him. However, Gon admitted he didn't know where Hisoka was. Kurapika revealed that Hisoka had whispered to him during the exam, claiming to have information about the Spider Gang. After the exam, Kurapika met with Hisoka, who instructed him to meet in a specific city in September, where he would share everything. That would be 6 months from now, coinciding with the world's largest auction of rare and valuable items. Kurapika believed the Spider Gang, being a group of thieves, would likely be there. At the final train station, the group prepared to part ways. Kurapika decided to work as a hunter to earn money for the auction, while Leorio planned to continue his medical studies alongside his work as a hunter. They all agreed to reunite in 6 months at the auction. Gon and Killua remained together, setting off on their next journey. Gon asks Killua, "What about us? What will we do during all this time?" Killua replies, "We'll train," adding, "You can't possibly fight Hisoka with your current weak strength." Gon asks, "Where will we train?" Killua answers that he knows the perfect place for training and earning money, a place called Heaven's Arena. When they arrive, Killua explains the arena to Gon. He tells him that the arena is a massive fighting tower, where participants earn money by winning battles. The higher they go, the stronger the fighters, and the greater the rewards. He mentions that he had been there 2 years ago, and made it to the 200th floor, leaving Gon astonished. They register their names to start fighting, with the initial matches determining their levels. Gon goes first, facing a giant opponent. With one powerful strike, Gon sends his opponent flying. Even Gon is surprised by his strength, easily qualifying for the 50th floor, which matches his current abilities. Killua fights next, defeating his opponent with a single blow, qualifying for the 180th floor. However, Killua decides to start from the 50th floor with Gon. At the same time, a boy their age named Zushi qualifies for the 50th floor as well. They get to know him, and Zushi introduces them to his mentor, Master Wing. Shortly after, Killua is called for his second fight against Zushi, the boy he just met. Killua confidently tells him, "The winner is already decided. I'm going to win." They both step into the arena, where the matches are scored by knockout or points. Points are earned by knocking down or directly striking the opponent. A fighter wins when they reach 10 points. The match begins, and Killua uses his signature speed to knock Zushi down instantly. He believes he has won, but to his surprise, Zushi gets back up. Killua starts landing more strikes, eventually winning by points, but Zushi continues to stand up after every attack. Then Zushi changes his stance, and a terrifying aura emanates from him, one that reminds Killua of Illumi's presence. Killua is frozen in shock. Master Wing yells at Zushi to stop using the technique, reminding him that he can only use it after reaching the 200th floor. After the match, Killua overhears Master Wing scolding Zushi for disobeying him and learns that the technique Zushi used is called Nen. However, Killua doesn't understand what Nen is or how it works. Killua shares the events of the fight with Gon and suggests they ask Zushi about Nen. When they approach Zushi, he tries to explain it, but Gon and Killua are confused. Master Wing arrives during their conversation and warns Zushi not to reveal anything further. Killua insists on learning, stating that his brother Illumi possesses the same ability. Master Wing eventually agrees to take them to his home and explain. At Wing's house, he describes Nen as a technique that feeds on one's spirit and willpower. However, Killua doesn't grasp the concept and leaves, telling Gon on the way out, "That guy is lying. That fight with Zushi was too difficult for me to use my abilities. He kept standing up every time I knocked him down, and it had nothing to do with willpower or determination." Indeed, Master Wing had been hiding the truth. When Zushi questions him about why he didn't tell them about Nen, Wing explains that while anyone can learn it, Nen is an incredibly powerful force. If someone with malicious intentions learns it, they could become a significant threat. To illustrate, he pulls a page from a book and enhances it with Nen, turning it into a blade sharper than a knife and faster than the eye can follow. Do you see now why Nen is such an overwhelming power? Wing asks. Gon and Killua continue their matches, winning one after another. Gon wins by using his speed to push his opponents back, while Killua secures victories with knockouts. Eventually, they reach the 200th floor. When they try to register their names on the 200th floor, they encounter a strange and intimidating aura that makes it hard for them to proceed down the hallway. Killua shouts, "Who's there at the end of the hall?" A receptionist appears, inviting them to register before the deadline of midnight. She warns them that from the 200th floor onward, weapons are allowed in matches. These battles are no longer about money, but about glory. Suddenly, Hisoka appears behind the receptionist, addressing Gon. He tells him he has been waiting for him and declares that he won't let them pass this floor, as it isn't a place for them. Hisoka unleashes a massive aura of Nen, overwhelming Gon and Killua. Gon tries to move forward, but finds himself unable. At that moment, Master Wing arrives and warns Gon not to act recklessly, as his body isn't ready to handle such a powerful Nen aura. Killua confronts Wing, saying, "So this is the willpower and determination you were talking about?" Wing responds, "You're right, I was lying before, but now I can teach you. Come with me." The receptionist reminds them not to miss the registration deadline, giving them 3.5 hours. She also informs them that they will need to use this power moving forward. They quickly follow Wing, who begins explaining Nen. He describes it as a life energy present in all forms of life, essentially the energy of life itself. He tells them that the key to mastering Nen is creating their own aura. Wing explains the 4 main principles of Nen, known as the 4 tenets: Ten, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu, the energy that forms the body's aura, providing basic defense and resilience against an opponent's Nen. 2. Zetsu, the ability to conceal one's presence and energy, making them undetectable. It also helps recover from fatigue and exhaustion. 3. Ren, the technique for producing a powerful aura, like the one Zushi used against Killua during their fight. 4. Hatsu, the ability to channel and release Nen, allowing precise control of its power. Wing demonstrates by breaking a wall with his aura without moving. He explains that everyone on the 200th floor and above uses Nen. Fighting without understanding it would lead to certain defeat. To survive, they must awaken their Nen and create a protective aura around their bodies. Wing tells them there are 2 ways to awaken Nen: the slow, natural method, which takes months to learn, or the fast method, using Hatsu to forcibly open their energy pathways. He warns them that while the latter method is effective, it's dangerous. Wing then releases his aura toward them, forcing their energy channels to open. Gradually, Gon and Killua succeed in awakening their auras. Next, they begin learning. 10. Forming a defensive aura to protect their bodies from external attacks. Wing instructs them to close their eyes and imagine energy flowing through them smoothly. Following this, they successfully create their protective aura, completing the first principle of Nen. To test their progress, Wing unleashes the same aura he used earlier. This time, Gon and Killua withstand it, impressing Wing with their rapid progress. They proceed to register their names for the 200th floor and find Hisoka waiting for them. Hisoka releases his aura again, but Gon and Killua manage to protect themselves with their aura and move toward him. Hisoka greets them, saying, "Welcome to the 200th floor." Turning to Gon, he asks, "Did you come to train or to learn how to fight me?" He adds, "There are plenty of battles ahead. If you win one, I'll agree to fight you." Gon and Killua register their names and head to their rooms, waiting for their first fight. Gon's opponent is a Nen user, and the fight begins. Gon uses his Nen to fight, but his opponent surprises him by launching spinning tops at an incredible speed. One of the tops hits Gon hard, leaving him stunned at the difficulty of the match. The battle continues, and Gon takes several hits but refuses to give up. Observing his opponent, he realizes the tops move randomly and attack anyone nearby. Determined, Gon decides to charge directly at his opponent, ignoring the tops. However, his opponent spins toward him and launches another top, knocking Gon back. The score reaches 9-0 in favor of his opponent, leaving only 1 point needed for Gon's defeat. Desperate, Gon uses Zetsu to conceal his presence and sense the top's movements. Wing watches in shock, worried for Gon, as a single hit from the tops could end him. Wing is puzzled by how Gon knows Zetsu, realizing he must have instinctively used it during the hunter exam when he hid among the trees to track Hisoka. Gon manages to block the tops for a while but is eventually surrounded and hit, leading to his opponent's victory. Gon's chance to fight Hisoka is lost. After the fight, Gon wakes up in his room to find his arm bandaged and his body covered in injuries. Killua visits him, scolding him for what happened. Shortly after, Master Wing arrives, furious at Gon, and slaps him across the face, telling him he almost got himself killed. Wing forbids Gon from fighting for 2 full months to allow his body to recover, warning him that if he doesn't follow this rule, Wing will stop teaching him altogether. Gon promises to abide by this, and Wing leaves the room along with Killua, allowing Gon to rest. Killua tells Wing that he will wait for Gon to recover before resuming his training. Meanwhile, Kurapika is searching for a job at a place that hires hunters. However, the receptionist refuses to hire him, claiming his test isn't over yet. Confused, Kurapika points out that he has his hunter license, but the receptionist releases an aura of Nen and asks, "Do you see this?" Kurapika doesn't understand. She tells him, "Come back when you do," and dismisses him. As Kurapika leaves, someone brushes past him unnoticed, and he later realizes he has been followed. Suddenly, an object is thrown at him with incredible force. Kurapika dodges it and turns to see a man holding his stolen hunter license. The man reveals that he took it when he passed Kurapika on the street. Kurapika demands its return, but the man challenges him to take it by force. A fight ensues, but Kurapika collapses, exhausted and unable to continue, while his opponent remains untouched. The man remarks that Kurapika needs to become stronger and hands back the license, telling him to follow if he wants to face true battles. Kurapika, determined, agrees to go with him. A month later, Killua visits Gon and is surprised to see that his body has fully healed in such a short time. Killua excitedly tells Gon that he has gotten tickets for Hisoka's next fight. His opponent Castro has a history with Hisoka, having managed to score a point against him in a previous match. Master Wing overhears their conversation and reminds Gon that watching matches is part of their Nen training. However, he also warns Gon to stick to his promise of not training for 2 months. Gon assures Wing he will watch the recording later, but Killua decides to go watch the fight in person. At the arena, Hisoka and Castro prepare for their match. The fight begins, and Castro attacks with incredible speed. Hisoka attempts to dodge but is hit, giving Castro the first point. Shocked, Killua watches from the audience as Castro lands a second and then a third point. Hisoka, now laughing, stands up and declares that he has figured out Castro's technique. Castro warns Hisoka that his next move will break his arm. Hisoka responds with a smile, saying, "Go ahead." Castro cuts off Hisoka's arm in front of a stunned audience. Hisoka realizes that Castro is using a cloning ability, which explains how his attacks landed even when Hisoka avoided them. Calmly, Hisoka pulls out a handkerchief, wraps it around his severed arm, and reveals that the arm has transformed into a deck of cards. Castro, unfazed, accuses Hisoka of playing tricks and vows to cut off his other arm. Castro attacks again and succeeds in severing Hisoka's second arm. However, as Castro turns, his clone suddenly vanishes and Hisoka's arms reappear. Castro is stunned, unable to understand what happened. Hisoka explains that he has figured out Castro's ability. The clone mimics the original's actions, but does not replicate the effects of battle, such as bloodstains. Hisoka identified the original Castro by the blood on his clothes. As Castro launches another violent attack, Hisoka counters with a powerful strike, knocking Castro down. Using his cards, Hisoka delivers a fatal blow, embedding them throughout Castro's body and securing his victory. After the match, Hisoka leaves the arena with his severed arms. Outside, a woman awaits him. She is revealed to be someone he knows, and she uses her Nen abilities to reattach and heal his arms completely. As she works, she asks Hisoka how he managed to win the fight. Hisoka explains that he used his 2 signature techniques, bungee gum and a texture surprise. Bungee gum pass allows him to stretch and attach objects like his severed arm, which he stuck to the ceiling during the fight. Texture surprise lets him change the appearance of objects using his imagination. For instance, he used a handkerchief to disguise his severed arm as a deck of cards. By combining these abilities, Hisoka distracted Castro, tied gum threads to his body, and manipulated his movements. This strategy ultimately allowed him to land the finishing blow. Before leaving, the woman delivers a message from the leader of their group, instructing all members to gather on August 30th. As she departs, Hisoka begins plotting his next moves, his mind filled with other plans. Gon completes his 2-month recovery period, and Master Wing summons him, Killua, and Zushi to continue their training. Together, they watch a recording of Hisoka's fight, analyzing his techniques. Used by Hisoka can be seen by focusing their renars on their eyes. Hisoka also used a technique called Gyo, which allows him to detect his opponent's aura and pinpoint its location. Gon tries to use Gyo but struggles to maintain it for long, so their current goal is to master Satoren and then Gyo. After their training session, Gon and Killua head out together and encounter a group of participants who target beginners to force them into fights. Their method involves kidnapping someone, and their victim this time is Zushi. However, Killua had anticipated this and follows them, offering to let them win if they release Zushi. They agree, and Killua registers for a match on the condition that they leave Zushi alone. Despite this promise, they later contact Gon, informing him they have Zushi and forcing him to register for a fight as well. When Killua learns of this betrayal, he angrily confronts one of the bullies, knocking him down. He warns, "If you use your Nen, I'll kill you. If you move, I'll kill you. And if you come within a centimeter of my friends, I'll kill you." Terrified, the bully quits the arena and never returns, automatically giving Killua and Gon a victory. Master Wing continues teaching Killua and Gon until Gon's next fight, which is against the same opponent he faced before. The match begins, and the opponent launches his his spinning tops at Gon. However, Gon strengthens his defenses with Nen and remains unharmed. He throws his fishing rod toward the opponent, who dodges it, thinking he avoided the attack. Unbeknownst to him, Gon had deliberately aimed for the arena tiles, using the hook to pull a piece of the floor toward his opponent. Gon uses this to destabilize him, breaking his support leg. Standing over him, Gon warns, "If you touch Zushi again, I'll break more than just your leg." Gon is declared the winner. Next, Killua faces one of the remaining bullies, who attacks with electrified whips. Killua easily grabs the whips, enduring the electric current without flinching. "Do whatever you want," Killua says. "I've fortified my defenses with Nen." Exhausted from overusing his energy, the opponent collapses, and Killua is declared the winner. The following day, the same opponent challenges Gon. During the match, Gon flips the arena tiles, causing his opponent to fall. Gon rushes over, takes the whips, and says, "I'll do to you what you did yesterday." But before Gon can act, his opponent faints from fear, giving Gon his second victory. Afterward, Hisoka approaches Gon, acknowledging him at last. "Set the time and place," he says. "We'll fight." Gon and Killua, along with Zushi, return to Wing, who begins teaching them the fourth principle of Nen, Hatsume. Hatsu allows users to release and control their aura at will. Wing explains that there are 6 types of Hatsu. 1. Enhancers. Increase the strength of their bodies or attacks. 2. Emitters. Project their aura onto other objects. 3. Transmuters. Alter the properties of their aura. 4. Conjurers. Manifest their aura into physical objects. 5. Manipulators. Control other objects or creatures with their aura. 6. Specialists. Possess unique abilities that don't fit into the other categories. To determine their type, Wing conducts a water divination test. He places a leaf on water and demonstrates his enhancer ability by causing the water to overflow. Gon performs the test and gets the same result, revealing he is also an enhancer. When Zushi tries, the leaf moves, indicating he is a manipulator. When Killua takes the test, nothing seems to happen at first, but the water's taste changes, confirming he is a transmuter. Wing congratulates Gon on his victory in the hunter's secret test, but Gon is confused. Wing explains that the purpose of being a hunter is to combat evil and capture criminals, requiring great strength. Learning about Nen during the exam was dangerous, so this secret test ensures only the strongest and most capable become hunters. By winning his fights, Gon has proven himself worthy. The time comes for Gon's match against Hisoka. Gon attacks with incredible speed, but Hisoka dodges effortlessly and counters, maintaining the upper hand. Hisoka taunts Gon, laughing and mocking him. Frustrated, Gon rips up a floor tile and throws it at Hisoka. Hisoka dodges, but in doing so loses sight of Gon, who suddenly appears in front of him and lands a powerful punch, knocking him backward. For the first time, Gon successfully hits Hisoka and avenges himself. Gon approaches Hisoka, returning the number tag he had taken during the hunter exam. "Now I've paid you back," Gon says, but he isn't satisfied. He wants to win the fight. Hisoka's demeanor changes, his aura intensifying. He delivers a series of strikes that overwhelm Gon, who struggles to keep up. Despite his efforts, Gon loses focus, and the score reaches 9-4 Nan in Hisoka's favor. Using bungee gum, Hisoka traps Gon with threads and pulls him in, landing another powerful blow. Gon refuses to give up, vowing to keep fighting. Hisoka, amused by Gon's determination, revels in the boy's fiery gaze, but Hisoka lands another devastating strike, sending Gon flying. The match ends with Hisoka scoring his 10th point. Declared the winner, Hisoka mocks Gon but assures him, "This won't be our last fight. The real battle will be in the real world, where I'll see your true strength." With his goal of hitting Hisoka accomplished, Gon decides it's time to leave Heaven's Arena. He thanks Wing and Zushi for teaching him how to develop his strength. Together, Gon and Killua bid farewell to the arena. After leaving Heaven's Arena, Gon returns to his home island to visit his aunt and rest for a while. Killua accompanies him, still uncertain about his purpose, but Gon encourages him to stay with him until he figures it out. They spend happy times on the island until Gon's aunt asks how long he plans to stay. Gon replies that he'll remain for a month before starting his journey to find his father. Although reluctant, his aunt accepts his decision and tells him, "If that's your choice, you should know everything." She then retrieves a small box and places it before him. She explains, "When your father was your age, he left to take the hunter exam without telling anyone on the island. He disappeared for 10 years, then suddenly returned with you as a baby. He left you with me, saying he and your mother had separated, and his work as a hunter wouldn't allow him to care for you properly. Before he left, he gave me this box and said, 'When Gon becomes a hunter, give this to him. That's all I know.'" Gon takes the box to his room with Killua, and they try various ways to open it, but fail. Killua suggests using Nen, and when Gon channels his Nen into the box, it opens. Inside, they find a tape, a memory card, and a ring. Gon plays the tape, and for the first time, hears his father's voice. The tape contains a message. If you want to find me, keep listening. If not, stop the tape now. Naturally, Gon continues listening. Ging explains that he feels guilty for leaving Gon and not being in his life, but he urges Gon to find him if he truly wants to. He adds, if you want to know about your mother, keep listening to the end of the tape. At this point, Gon abruptly stops the tape, declaring that he doesn't want to know about his mother, as his aunt has been a mother to him. Suddenly, the tape rewinds and erases itself, a result of Ging embedding Nen into it. Despite trying to stop the process, Gon and Killua are unable to save the tape's contents. Left with the ring and memory card, Killua suggests trying the card in a gaming device. They purchase the device and discover that the card contains a game titled Greed Island. Research reveals the game is extremely rare, with only a few copies in existence, and it's designed exclusively for hunters, interacting with Nen. The only known place to find it is at the auction in September, where they plan to reunite with Kurapika and Leorio. With the auction approaching, Gon and Killua prepare to leave the island. Meanwhile, Kurapika continues his Nen training under the guidance of the man who had previously stolen his hunter license. He learns that his Nen type is conjuration, which allows him to create objects by imagining them. His mentor explains, the things you conjure are typically weaker than real objects, so a strong imagination is essential for creating detailed and effective items. Later, Kurapika returns to the employment agency, asking for a job with someone influential at the upcoming auction. The receptionist offers him 3 options. 1. A weapons enthusiast. 2. A collector of Chinese treasures. 3. A collector of human relics, such as skulls and skeletons. Without hesitation, Kurapika chooses the 3rd option. He arrives at the interview site to find himself among other applicants. The employer, a mafia boss, tasks them with retrieving specific relics before the auction. Among the items, Kurapika is shocked to see the scarlet eyes of his clan listed. Determined to succeed, he vows to pass the test and infiltrate the ranks of the Spider Gang. During the task, a group of attackers ambushes the applicants. The employer reveals that this is part of the test, meant to identify strong and reliable candidates. Kurapika uses his chains to capture one of the attackers and threatens him, saying, "Stop this now, or I'll kill you." The attackers vanish, revealing they were conjured by another applicant using Nen, Kurapika, and the remaining applicants successfully gather the required relics, passing the test. Kurapika is hired by the Nostrade family, a prominent mafia group, with his primary duty being to protect the mafia boss's daughter. On the dark side of events, the Spider Gang aid gathers, including Hisoka, who isn't truly one of them, but is deceiving them with his hidden agenda. During the meeting, the leader announces their bold plan, to steal everything from this year's auction. The members are shocked, saying, "This will make us enemies of the entire mafia." The leader responds coldly, "Let them come, we'll kill them all." The announcement ignites excitement among the gang, setting the stage for a massive confrontation involving Kurapika, who will surely cross paths with them. Will Kurapika be able to exact his revenge? Meanwhile, Gon and Killua arrive in a Yorknew city, where they discover an online hunter-exclusive platform. Powered by a Wren, the site allows users to ask any question. They inquire about the game, Greed Island, and learn that it's a game powered by Nen, immersing players in a lifelike world. The site reveals that 50 hunters are currently playing the game, but none have returned. Only 7 copies of the game exist, and they are set to be auctioned, making them incredibly valuable. Gon and Killua try various ways to earn money for the auction, but struggle to gather enough funds. They reunite with Leorio, who has yet to master Nen. Joining forces, they devise a plan. Gon challenges passers-by to arm wrestling matches for an entry fee, offering a gemstone as the prize. Crowds gather, but Gon's strength allows him to defeat them all. However, a mysterious girl eventually challenges him, and she turns out to be a member of the Spider Gang. The match is intense, with Gon giving everything he has to win. After a fierce struggle, he finally defeats her. The girl departs, but casts a lingering glance at Gon as she leaves. Elsewhere, Kurapika and his team are assigned to guard the front entrance on the auction's opening day. The centerpiece of the auction is an ancient mummy. Kurapika senses an eerie calm and warns his partner, who has a heightened sense of hearing. She can detect people's heartbeats and discern their emotions. Noticing Kurapika's heart races when the scarlet eyes are mentioned, Kurapika shares the tragic story of his clan and his vow to reclaim their stolen eyes and avenge them, no matter the cost. The auction begins, but 2 disguised members of the Spider Gang and infiltrate as auctioneers. Chaos erupts as they turn the event into a massacre, mercilessly killing everyone present. The gang cleans up meticulously, erasing all traces of their actions. When Kurapika and the Mafia arrive, they find the venue eerily empty, with no evidence of the carnage. They proceed to the vault, only to discover it has been cleared out. The Spider Gang is also baffled to find the vault empty. Suspecting betrayal, one member contacts their leader, reporting that someone entered the vault but didn't take anything at first. Then, everything vanished shortly after. The leader deduces that the Mafia had anticipated the theft and move the items beforehand. The culprits? The cows, shadow beasts, an elite mafia unit. The leader orders his team to locate and kill any shadow beast they encounter, recovering the stolen goods. The shadow beasts track the Spider Gang, reporting their location to the Mafia. Kurapika and his team, also alerted, head to the same destination. Upon arrival, they witness an army of Mafia soldiers confronting the gang. From the Spider Gang, Uvogin steps forward alone to face the horde. A Mafia soldier fires at Uvogin, but he catches the bullet between his teeth and retaliates, slaughtering the Mafia forces with monstrous strength. He crushes them effortlessly, even deflecting sniper bullets, and obliterates the attackers like a wild beast. Kurapika arrives and watches in horror as Uvogin annihilates the Mafia. His partner detects nearby heartbeats, members of the Chopper's shadow beasts, emerging from underground. 4 elite shadow beasts reveal themselves, announcing that they'll handle the gang. Kurapika's team wonders if they stand a chance against such a monster. Uvogin taunts the shadow beasts. "Welcome! Where did you hide the auction items?" The battle begins, pitting 4 shadow beasts against 1 Spider Gang member. Despite their combined efforts, Uvogin unleashes a devastating Nen-powered strike that creates a seismic shockwave, shaking the ground violently. His torn clothing reveals the spider tattoo on his back, leaving everyone in stunned silence. It becomes clear that the attack on the auction was part of the Spider Gang's meticulously planned operation. Kurapika is in shock, thinking to himself, "This is the gang that slaughtered my clan," which ignites his anger. Meanwhile, Uvogin is battling 3 shadow beasts after having already defeated 1. They attack him simultaneously. One injects venom into his neck, another gnaws at his body, and the third attempts to paralyze him. However, Uvogin manages to eliminate each of them. He bites off a part of one's skull and uses it as a projectile to kill another. Then, he screams so loudly at the last one that it causes a seizure, rendering him immobile. Uvogin emerges victorious against all 4. Kurapika, filled with rage, tells his team that he's going to kill Uvogin. His team tries to stop him, warning him that even an entire Mafia army couldn't take down the Spider Gang, so how could he possibly do it? But Kurapika's anger is evident on his face as he advances. His teammate plays a soothing melody to calm him down, which works. Kurapika thanks her and then devises a new plan, saying he'll capture Uvogin instead. He instructs his team to prepare the vehicle for a quick getaway after the capture. Kurapika uses his chain to bind Uvogin and abducts him quickly, but a Spider Gang member uses hidden Nen threads to track them. In the vehicle, Uvogin tries to provoke Kurapika, but Kurapika sternly tells him to be quiet while tightening the chains. Uvogin is confused by the chain's incredible strength, wondering if they are forged from Nen. Unknown to Uvogin, Kurapika's chains are powered by a Nen ability called Chain Jail. Bound by a strict condition, they can only be used against Spider Gang members. Violating this condition would activate a knife pointed at Kurapika's heart, killing him instantly. This restriction amplifies the chain's power exponentially. Kurapika notices a vehicle pursuing them, and realizes it's following a thread attached to Uvogin. He quickly cuts the thread, but it's too late. The gang is already closing in. However, another individual attacks the Spider Gang's vehicle, shrinking it into a cloth, though some gang members manage to escape. The Spider Gang questions whether the attacker is part of the Shadow Beasts or the group that stole the auction items. Meanwhile, Kurapika's group interrogates Uvogin, who is now restrained in a cell, demanding to know where the auction items are. Uvogin mockingly tells them that the Spider Gang didn't take the items. It was someone from the Shadow Beasts. He taunts them to release him, promising not to harm them. Kurapika asks where the people from the auction are, mentioning that some were their friends. Uvogin coldly admits they killed them, enraging Kurapika, who lands a powerful punch on Uvogin's face, yelling, "How long will you keep killing innocent people?" A teammate suggests handing Uvogin over to the Mafia, and they call to arrange this. Unbeknownst to them, the Spider Gang has already intercepted their call, taking over the line and learning Uvogin's location. While this unfolds, Kurapika receives a message from Hisoka, reminding him of their meeting. Kurapika goes to Hisoka, who reveals he isn't there to fight, but to make a deal. Hisoka proposes an exchange of information. When asked why he joined the Spider Gang, Hisoka explains his sole goal is to fight their leader, nothing more. This exchange gives Kurapika valuable insights into some gang members' abilities. During this time, the Spider Gang rescues Uvogin. The girl who competed with Gon uses her Nen ability to remove the poison from his body. Furious at Kurapika, Uvogin lets out a deafening roar, sending shockwaves of fear through everyone present. Kurapika's team contacts him, informing him of the rescue. Kurapika immediately leaves Hisoka to rejoin his team. Realizing their location has been compromised, Kurapika orders his team to move their employer's daughter to safety, while he stays behind at the hotel, awaiting the gang. Uvogin arrives at Kurapika's location, still seething with rage from their earlier encounter. Standing before Kurapika, he taunts, "Where would you like your grave to be?" Kurapika coldly replies, "Somewhere deserted so you can scream all you want." Enraged, Uvogin follows him to an abandoned area, and their battle begins. Uvogin launches a powerful attack, but Kurapika evades using his chains. Uvogin, shocked by their strength, decides to close the distance between them. He lands a strong blow on Kurapika's arm, believing he's broken it, only to be stunned when Kurapika withstands the attack effortlessly. Uvogin is bewildered, wondering how someone using materialized Nen could possess such overwhelming strength in his chains. Kurapika still has some of his Nen energy left to defend himself, repeatedly countering Uvogin's attacks while landing strikes of his own. Each time Kurapika manages to deflect or attack, Uvogin grows more furious, especially when Kurapika taunts him, saying, "Is this the strength of a Spider Gang member?" Enraged, Uvogin unleashes a large smoke cloud and tries to strike Kurapika from behind, landing a powerful blow that sends him flying. But Kurapika quickly recovers, mockingly asking, "Is that all you've got?" Frustrated, Uvogin realizes he's immobilized, wrapped tightly in chains infused with Nen. Kurapika had been secretly binding him with these chains during each attack. Bewildered, Uvogin demands to know how this is possible. Kurapika calmly stands before him and removes his contact lenses, revealing his scarlet eyes. Uvogin is stunned, exclaiming, "You're from the Kurta clan! Is that why you're seeking revenge?" Kurapika's glare hardens as Uvogin struggles in vain to break free from the chains. Kurapika explains, "These chains aren't ordinary. When my scarlet eyes are activated, I become a specialist, allowing me to use all categories of Hatsu. These chains are tied to your Ren, meaning they cannot be broken by your Nen alone. I can even heal myself using enhancement abilities." At that moment, Uvogin realizes his fate is sealed. Kurapika delivers a series of powerful strikes, demanding to know the whereabouts of the Spider Gang. Uvogin, battered but defiant, refuses to betray his comrades, taunting Kurapika to do his worst. At his wit's end, Kurapika gives him one last chance, embedding a chain directly into Uvogin's heart. He activates his chain jail ability, setting a condition. "You must answer my question truthfully. Where are the remaining Spider Gang members? If you lie, this chain will rip your heart apart." Uvogin, in pain but unwavering, laughs and replies, "Didn't I tell you to kill me already?" The chain activates, and Uvogin's heart is destroyed. With that, Kurapika has successfully eliminated the first member of the Spider Gang, vowing to take down every last one of them and reclaim his clan's stolen eyes. He returns to his team to regroup. News of Uvogin's death reaches the Spider Gang. They dub Kurapika the Chain User, and the gang's leader declares a new objective: to hunt down and eliminate the Chain User. Meanwhile, Gon and Killua have managed to earn some money through arm wrestling matches, but the amount is still far from enough to buy the game they seek. Leorio reassures them, saying the matches were just a lure, and a bigger opportunity is coming. True to his word, one day they are invited to an underground arena where high-stakes arm wrestling matches take place. The arena is filled with participants with massive physiques, and the crowd wagers huge sums on the outcomes. However, before the matches begin, members of the Mafia interrupt. They present a new proposition, showing a picture of several individuals, members of the Spider Gang, and offering a reward of 2 billion for capturing any one of them. Gon, Killua, and Leorio leave the arena, uneasy about the Mafia's involvement. They realize the Mafia must be struggling to handle the situation, given their call for outside help. They also hear about the attack on the auction, deducing that the perpetrators are likely members of the Spider Gang. The trio decides to shift their focus to capturing one of these gang members, aligning their goal with Kurapika's. At the same time, the Spider Gang's leader intensifies the search for the Chain User, uncovering information linking him to the Lost Raid family. The gang also learns that the family's daughter possesses the rare ability to predict the future, which has bolstered her father's influence among the Mafia. Her foresight had warned the Mafia of a potential heist, explaining why the auction items were relocated. Kurapika and his team meet with the Mafia boss, warning him of the Spider Gang's pursuit of his daughter. The boss assures Kurapika not to worry, as he has hired the Zoldyck family to eliminate the gang, and invites Kurapika to join the effort. Kurapika agrees, knowing the Spider Gang will likely resurface at the next auction, giving him another chance to confront them. Indeed, the Spider Gang was planning a larger and more sweeping attack in revenge for their friend Ubo. At that time, Gon and Killua were monitoring two members of the Spider Gang, who felt they were being watched and suspected it was a trap set by the gang. So, they tracked them every step of the way until they reached a reserved spot, warning them not to go out because there might be a trap to lure them in. Gon locked eyes with one of the gang members, and at the same moment, Killua was looking at him to attack. Both of them aimed at a gang member, but they were surprised by the appearance of other Spider Gang members, who were the ones being watched. Killua tried to move quickly to find an escape route, but one of the gang members caught him and hit him hard, asking why they were tracking them, and if they had any connection to the owner of the series, and if he was the one who sent them. But Gon replied, "We don't know what this owner of the series means, but we're tracking you because the Mafia has put a bounty on your heads." Despite Don's attempts to escape, he couldn't manage it, and they would be captured and taken to the hideout to see what the leader would do. Their fate led them to the headquarters, where they entered amidst their tension, now in the gang's base. Gon noticed Soka, and one of the gang members noticed Gol's hesitation, asking him if he knew any of them. Killua immediately responded, pointing to the girl and saying, Gon managed to defeat her in a game of Rust. This man couldn't believe that a kid like this could win against her. He wrestled with Gon, and each time Gon lost to the point where his hands started to bleed, and the man was affected by what happened to their friend Ubo. They replied to Gon saying, what about the people you killed and eliminated? Do you not feel any remorse for them? They became very angry, and Gon managed to defeat the man, grabbing another member of the farming gang and breaking him, but the leader cursed and told him he wanted the two kids to join them. Amidst the remaining gang members, a girl named Pacorda told them not to worry, as they had no memories of the owner of the series, and she was sure of that. Killua didn't know how she could know that she had no connection to the owner of the series. It didn't show that this girl had the ability to know memories. When they captured them on their way, she examined their memories because they didn't know who the owner of the series was, as they didn't know that their master was the one they referred to as the owner of the series. After that, they were locked in a room, and the guard was the same person who had faced Gon until their fate was decided by the gang leader. The gang's target now was the Lustrad family and the owner of the series. The leader managed to reach the girl and asked her about his future, and she told him things that had already happened and things that would happen in the future, using her Nen energy without knowing it. The news reached the Lustrad family leader that his daughter was missing, so he used a technique ball to try to find her, and indeed, Kurapika knew where she was, which was the same place as the auction that would take place. The girl went with the gang leader, who used her to enter the auction, but suddenly he hit her, causing her to lose consciousness and fall to the ground, and he tried to hold her, claiming she had fainted. Meanwhile, her father and Kurapika had arrived at the hotel and went to see their daughter lying in bed. Her father asked Kurapika to sit next to her and protect her no matter what happened, then he left. Back to Gon and Killua, who were thinking of a way to escape until an idea came to Gon, and he whispered it to Killua. Suddenly, they headed towards the guard, but they were caught. Each of them ran in opposite directions, hitting the walls and breaking them to escape. The guard didn't know whom to chase, but they managed to flee and regroup. Killua told Gon he heard the gang saying that someone had been recently hired to deal with the owner of the series, and this person held a grudge against the gang, and there was no one fitting that description other than Kurapika. At that time, the Spider Gang leader was summoning all gang members to go to the auction site, turn it upside down, and kill everyone. They indeed showed up, and the hotel turned into a massacre, all while Kurapika was still in the girl's room, guarding her. The news spread throughout the city, paralyzing it, and Gon and Killua learned of the news and called Kurapika to tell him everything that had happened, and he scolded them for getting involved with this gang, telling them it was his battle and they shouldn't interfere in his affairs. Killua told him they were his friends, and he continued, saying, "You are the owner of the series. They are everywhere trying to find you, and they have orders to kill you after you killed one of them. We won't leave you. We will find you and come to you." On the other hand, the Spider Gang's injury was still in effect. All the Mafia guards and Mafia gang leaders were gathered, unsure if this auction would be cancelled as well. The Zoc family told them not to worry, as they would handle the matter, and they set off to fight the Spider Gang. Indeed, they tracked down the Spider Gang leader and fought together, each delivering several powerful blows to the other. It became clear that the gang leader's ability was to steal the powers of others. The fight continued between the Spider Gang leader and Killua's father and grandfather until he pounced on him, causing him to fall to the ground, calling for his son to finish him off. A powerful blow, indeed, occurred, leading to a massive explosion that shook the hotel, leaving everyone inside shocked by the blast. The Spider Gang leader got up again, but suddenly, Killua's father received a call from Illumi, informing them that the people they had hired had been killed. The Spider Gang leader asked them if they would continue fighting, but they didn't tell him since the people they had hired had been killed, so they had no further involvement in this. It became clear that the Spider Gang leader was the one who had hired Illumi to eliminate the Mafia leaders. The Spider Gang members gathered again, and the leader told them it was now time to retrieve the exhibits. Someone from the gang appeared with the ability to clone bodies and objects, and the leader's plan was to clone their bodies as corpses that had been killed and also clone the exhibits. After the news of the Spider Gang's members being killed reached everyone, the auction began, showcasing the fake exhibits. The news reached Kurapika, who couldn't believe it, so he went to see their bodies on the ground with his own eyes. After that, he went to the auction and saw that his family's crimson eyes were the item that would be auctioned. Kurapika called the leader of the import family, informing him that all the Spider Gang members had been killed and that the crimson eyes were now up for auction. He asked him if he would buy them or not, and the leader immediately replied that he would buy them, and indeed, he bought them and gave them to the president's daughter. Kurapika is now engulfed in the darkness of confusion. The goal he was pursuing has slipped away, and his quest for revenge against the gang has come to an end. He then contacts Gon to gather the three of them, and shortly after, Leorio joins them, and they spend some happy moments together. In those moments, Gon asks Kurapika how he gained his power, and Kurapika explains the oath he took to heart, and how his power multiplies through it. Killua shouts at him, questioning how he could share such an important secret, especially since there's a girl in the Phantom Troupe who has the ability to uncover memories. If they are captured by them again, she will learn about his weakness and kill him. Therefore, they must search for all the members of the gang and eliminate them immediately. Kurapika knows where their base is, and if they waste any more time, they will have the chance to escape. Kurapika states that he will not pursue them as long as the gang leader is dead. His quest for them is over, and his current goal is to retrieve his clan's eyes. But suddenly, he receives a message from Hisoka, informing him that those corpses are fake. At that moment, Kurapika realizes the truth of the situation and understands that this was a plan to divert the Mafia's attention away from them. Then, a girl from his team tells him that the order to search for the Phantom Troupe members has been cancelled, along with the bounty on their heads. In that moment, Kurapika regains his focus and his spirit returns to continue his path. Gon wants to go with him, but Killua stops him, reminding him that their goal is the money on their heads to buy a game for Greed Island, so this is pointless now. However, Gon's desire to join Kurapika in the hunt for treatment influences him, and he has no choice but to join as well. They gather and begin discussing their plan, with their target this time being a girl named Pakunoda, and they will seek any suitable opportunity to capture her. On the other side, the gang is gathered, and the leader tells them that their mission has ended after stealing the exhibits, and they will return home. But the owner of the chain, Nobunaga, questions how they can leave without killing the chain owner in revenge for Ubo. The leader tells him that if they stay in this place, half of them will die, which they learned through the prediction abilities of a member of the Lestat family. It becomes clear that the leader managed to steal this ability from her, and cannot know who will be killed among them. Indeed, he relies on the prediction abilities to find that 5 of them will be killed by the chain owner, because he doesn't want to lose anyone from his gang. But Hisoka refuses to leave, and it becomes evident that the readings of the fork indicate his betrayal of the gang. However, he quickly alters that information with other details showing betrayals, explaining that he was forced to betray them due to the chain owner, who used something in his body to prevent him from saying anything about him or disobeying his orders, or else he would die. Thus, he refuses to leave, forcing the leader to keep himself and his gang in place. Then an idea strikes the leader, and he remembers that his son from the Lestat family is obsessed with human spoils, so the Crimson Eyes of the Kurta clan must be in their possession. He asks the man with the cloning ability if he can send him the location of the fake Crimson Eyes to find out where the girl is. Indeed, he tells them he can do that, but first, they must bring him the real eyes to search for them among the exhibits they stole. When they find them, the man uses his ability to locate the fake Crimson Eyes, revealing that they are in one of the boxes of the Lestat family. At that moment, the leader states that the chain owner must be in that place to protect that girl, and he immediately divides the gang members into groups and they set off on a search for the chain owner. Meanwhile, Gon and the rest of the team are on a quest to find Pakunoda, and Kurapika asks for help from the one with the strong hearing ability to track Pakunoda. She can indeed hear them and pinpoint their location, so they head towards them. However, Kurapika, knowing their movements, is shocked because he realizes they are heading to the hotel. He then calls the eye guard at the hotel to tell him to escape immediately and rushes to reach the hotel. The gang arrives at the hotel, and the man with the cloning ability senses that the fake eyes are moving. At that moment, the leader orders the gang members to follow him, or else they will let the chain owner escape. Meanwhile, Kurapika is stuck at a traffic light. He exits the car and rushes to their location in disguise, telling Gon over the phone that he will follow them. They shout at him, trying to stop him because doing so will reveal his identity, but Kurapika doesn't listen and continues on his way, while Gon rushes to his location. At that time, the gang leader divides his members into 2 groups after sensing that there are people chasing them. One group goes after the movement of the Crimson Eyes, while the other, including himself, confronts those who are pursuing them. Kurapika prepares to attack the gang leader, but suddenly Gon appears in front of them, apologizing and explaining that they were chasing them because they thought the bounty was still on their heads. Killua also shows up and asks them to leave, but the gang leader orders his members to capture them and take them along until the other group of gang members finishes their task and brings Pakunoda with them. Kurapika doesn't know what to do, and a girl from his team tells him that all of this happened because of him, and if Pakunoda uses her ability on them, they will know everything. Kurapika is now in a predicament, and his companion tells him he needs to calm down and think carefully about what to do. At that time, Pakunoda manages to capture the guard of the fake Crimson Eyes and learns from him, using her memories, that the chain owner is Kurapika Nobunaga. At that moment, she vows that she will be the one to kill Kurapika. Pakunoda then calls the leader and informs him that they have discovered the identity of the chain owner, telling them to go to the hotel and bring him there. The leader arrives at the hotel with Killua and Gon, who see Leorio sitting in the hotel lobby, but his presence has another purpose. He pretends to be on a call and loudly says words with a hidden message for both Gon and Killua, indicating the power will be cut off at the hotel at 7 CUZs, so this is the right time for them to escape. The gang members contact Pakunoda, asking her to come, because the leader requires her to confirm Gon and Killua's memories about the chain owner. Indeed, Pakunoda approaches them, and there's still a minute until the power goes out. She gets closer, and Gon and Killua try to distract her, but she grabs one of them with her hands and sees their memories. She is about to speak, but suddenly the power goes out, allowing Killua to free himself from his restraints and start fighting the gang members. Gon tries to do the same, but he cannot free himself, and the fight continues until the power returns. But they are surprised to find the leader has disappeared. It becomes clear that Kurapika took advantage of this situation and kidnapped the leader to show Nobunaga a message and give it to Pakunoda. The message states that if she says anything about Kurapika's identity, the leader will be killed, so she must remain silent. Meanwhile, Kurapika has chained the leader and taken him in his car with his companion, and the leader begins to provoke Kurapika, who punches him several times until his companion calms him down. At that moment, the entire gang has arrived at the hotel and gathered, arguing about what to do with the leader when Kurapika calls them, telling them that if the two hostages with him are touched, he will kill the leader immediately. Otherwise, no one should track them. He requests a call with Pakunoda to tell her a place where only he and she can meet, warning her that if he senses anyone else with her, he will kill the leader. Indeed, Pakunoda prepares to go to the location, while the other gang members argue about whether to go with her or not, but she leaves them and goes alone. At the same time, Hisoka sends a message to Illumi to disguise himself and go to the leader's location to kill him, because it's the right time since he is already kidnapped. Bakunda arrives at the location and confronts Kurapika, stating, "I have critical conditions that you must adhere to, or I will kill the leader. First, I will use the judgment chain on the leader and impose two conditions. The first condition is that he must never use me, and the second condition is that he must have no further connection with you after that." Despite Kurapika's desire to kill him, he tries to suppress that urge to save his friends and asks her if she agrees to these conditions, to which she responds affirmatively. Kurapika then wraps the judgment chain around the leader's heart. Kurapika tells her, "Now it's your turn. First, you will release both Gon and Killua and leave them in a place I will specify, and in return, I will free the leader. Secondly, you must not say a word about my identity, or I will surround you with a chain and kill both you and the leader." Bakunda agrees, and then she leaves to go to the gang's hideout without telling them anything. Consequently, the gang members are in a state of confusion. Part of the gang believes her, while the other part thinks she is a traitor who has been manipulated. However, they have no choice but to listen to Kurapika, who has put them in a state of doubt and disarray. Gon and Killua leave with Bakunda to the agreed-upon location specified by Kurapika. When they arrive, they are surprised to find Hisoka there, and it becomes clear that the Hisoka who was at the hideout was actually Illumi in disguise. Kurapika asks him why he came, and Hisoka replies, "Do you remember when I told you my goal is to kill the leader?" The hostages are exchanged, and Kurapika, Killua, and Gon leave, while Hisoka stands facing the leader and says, "I've been dreaming of this moment for a long time." But the leader does not respond due to the chain around his heart. Hisoka removes his clothes, revealing the spider tattoo, and tells the leader, "I no longer need them. I am not a member of your gang." The leader seizes this opportunity to speak with Hisoka, as Kurapika has been forbidden from talking to anyone from his gang, saying, "What fight are you talking about? Kurapika has used the judgment chain on me, and I can no longer use Nen, either now or in the future." Hisoka's hopes for a fight with the leader are dashed. After all this effort, he will not fight him. Hisoka then leaves the gang for good. Bakunda returns to the gang's hideout, and they ask her why she didn't bring anyone with her. She replies, "I can't tell you, but there's one last thing." Then she unleashes her aura to show her memories to everyone present, and the chain around her heart explodes, killing her in the end. Thus, the battle between Kurapika and the Phantom Troupe comes to an end. At that time, the leader is thinking of a way to regain his powers. We return to Gon and Killua, who are heading back toward their goal, which is the game. Killua asks, "What should we do now?" Gon replies, "All we have to do is go to the owner of that game and ask to enter it as hunters." They go to the game owner's party and request to speak with him, asking him to allow them to enter the game. His guard asks them to show their Nen energy, informing them that their energy is not sufficient to enter this game, and that they need stronger individuals. They still have time until the registration opens. During this period, they should work on developing their energy. Each of them begins trying to enhance their abilities, with Kurapika reaching a point where he uses a special technique involving electricity through his energy, while Gon still hasn't figured out how to develop his ability. Kurapika comes to him and tells him he still has 2 days left before he leaves, as he knows knows he is one of the guards of the Lestat family and wants to stay with them. Indeed, after 2 days, Kurapika leaves them, and Gon continues trying to develop his skills but to no avail, until he gets the idea to contact his teacher, Wing, and ask him how he can acquire special abilities. The teacher tells him that he is an enhancer, so he doesn't need special abilities. He can do anything by using all his powers. Gon doesn't understand what that means, but through continued effort, he grasps the teacher's intent and succeeds in focusing all his Nen energy into his hand, surprising himself with his incredible strength. After that, Gon and Killua participate in the Great Island Game test, and they manage to succeed and achieve their goal. Gon inserts the memory card left by his father into the device and immediately enters the game. Here begins a new phase in Gon's life, as he enters the game to find a girl explaining all the rules to him, telling him that the goal of the game is to collect cards, and that he has only 2 magical spells he can use within the game. The first spell is the book spell, which creates a book in front of you through which you can store the cards you have collected. When you open the book, you will find the card slots numbered from 1 to 99, meaning you have 100 mandatory cards to collect. Once you finish collecting them, you will find 2 pages where you can store non-mandatory cards, which you can benefit from while playing. The second spell is the acquisition spell, which allows you to use a card, meaning it transforms from its paper form into its physical form, enabling you to utilize it within the game. They both ask her how they can collect these cards, and she responds that every task they complete turns into a card, but if they use it, they cannot revert it back to a card and must search for it again. At this point, Gon doesn't understand anything the girl is saying, as the amount of information flooding his mind is overwhelming. The girl continues, saying there is one last piece of information. There are 2 cases in which you cannot transform items into cards. For example, if you have a card and the allowed limit for transforming it is 3 times, and 3 players have transformed the same item into a card, then the remaining players will not be able to transform that item into a card. You must use the card and find that player to take it from them or kill them. The second case is if you try to transform an item into a card and do not place it in your book within a minute, that card will revert to the item, and you will not be able to retrieve it again. With this, Gon has learned all the game instructions and is about to start, but the information on the memory card is loading, and a message from Gon's father appears, saying he is happy that Gon has reached this stage and entered the game he created with his friends. He tells him to try to enjoy it, but not to expect anyone to inform him of his location. All he wanted was to show him his game, so enjoy Gon. The message ends, and they begin the game with their new goal being to finish it. On the other hand, the Phantom Troupe has a copy of the game that they obtained through an auction. They are also participating in the game, but not to finish it, but for other purposes. We return to Gon, who feels that someone is watching him, but he prefers to wait for Killua to enter the game. When Killua enters the game, he warns him that someone is watching them, but they do not know who it is or why. Suddenly, a person appears and descends from the sky at a crazy speed. They do not know how he managed to do that, whether by using Nen energy. Suddenly, he pulls out his book, grabs a card, and places it in the book to gather all the information related to Gon and Killua. Then quickly, he attacks Killua with the card, but despite Killua's attempts, there's no escape. The titles prove that it must fulfill its mission. At that moment, he erupts in anger and looks at the man, who upon seeing his gaze, trembles in fear. Out of sheer terror, he uses one of the cards and suddenly disappears, just like the way he arrived, using a card called Return, which is meant to take you wherever you want. Gon and Killua are worried about the card that activated on Killua and its effect on him, but they continue on their way until they reach a city where they enter a restaurant. The restaurant owner says to them, "Let's play a game," and brings out a plate of food, saying, "If you finish this plate, I'll give you a card." Indeed, both Killua and Gon start eating the plate, and within a few seconds, they have finished it and receive their first cards in the game. They examine them and read the numbers on them, F185, but they don't understand it. The restaurant owner realizes they are new participants in the game and explains the card to them, saying that the number on the left side is the card number. Along with this number, there is a letter that indicates how difficult it is to obtain this card. These cards are ranked from category H, which is the easiest, to category SS. The number next to the category is the maximum number of transfers possible for this card. Suddenly, they hear a loud explosion and rush outside to find a person injured on the ground, dead. They ask people around, who tell them that his body exploded suddenly and fell to the ground dead. They have only spent 2 hours in the game and witness a participant dying in front of them, making them fearful that the card that activated on Killua is the cause of this. A person appears behind them and says, "Don't be afraid. There are no health cards that can harm anyone in the game. It seems you lack a lot of information to understand. How about joining us? We know a way to completely finish the game." They agree to join, and indeed they go to find a group of participants who are collecting cards, and their goal is to finish this game. They tell them that the cards cannot harm anyone in the game, and that the card that activated on Killua is a spy card that the other player cannot use to find your location. If you happen to find find an important card, then they will know and come to steal it or kill you. But don't worry, you can remove the effect of this card with another card. They inform them that there is a gang that steals from players, and the bomber is one of them. They continue their conversation, but both Gon and Killua understand that this group is also stealing cards, so they object and refuse to join them. Gon says that these people are not here to enjoy the game as his father wanted, but all they want is to finish this game. Killua agrees, and the two set off on their journey to collect cards alone, with their next destination being the city of Masadora, which is the center for magical cards. However, there is a girl watching them. They embark on their journey, and during this trip, they encounter a group of monsters. With each other's help, they manage to defeat them and earn cards until they face a huge monster they cannot defeat. A girl appears and tells them to use a card among their cards called the Geo card, and indeed they use it to defeat the monster and obtain a new card. Then the girl says to them, "Since you can already use this energy, why didn't you use it before?" Geo is one of the most important methods to use when we feel danger. Killua shouts at her saying, "Who are you anyway? What do you want from us?" She tells them to be quiet. She is not just a girl as she seems, but she could be older than his father personally. She introduces herself as Bisky, a professional hunter, and she has learned to use Nen for 40 years, so she wants to share her experience with them over those years. Killua tells her that they don't want anything from her, and that she should go away and leave them alone, mentioning that they have their teacher, who is Master Wing. Bisky surprises them by saying that Master Wing was one of her students, so they immediately agree. While they are talking, Bisky feels that someone is watching them and tells them where he is, saying he is behind them. She wonders how she knows this when they didn't even feel his presence, so she tells them to act as they are, so he doesn't realize they know he is there. After that, she shares her plan, which is to let them think they had a fight, so she can leave them, and this would give the person a chance to attack her. Indeed, this person goes after her and attacks her, cutting a part of her hair. His ability is to eat hair, through which he learns information about the person. He realizes that this girl is not young, but rather a woman aged 50. He challenges her to an unarmed duel, and indeed he attacks her with incredible speed. After a series of blows, she manages to defeat him, and Gon and Killua appear. She says to them, "What do you think now? If I hadn't been here and he had attacked you, you would have been dead." Gon tells her that they agree, but he wants to know what her goal is in playing this game. She tells them that her goal is to find a specific card and take it with her to the real world. If you finish the game, you have the right to choose 3 cards from the mandatory cards to take with you to the real world. The man gets up again, and she tells him, "Give me your card, and I will pardon you and let you live. If you can withstand the attacks of these 2 kids for 2 whole weeks. If you escape or refuse, I will kill you." They begin training until they can finally withstand all the man's attacks and defeat him. After that, she takes them to a card selling office to buy several cards, then they return to their training place, and it becomes clear that these cards were actually digging tools to take them to a rocky area. She asks them to dig through all the rocks, and indeed they listen to her and train hard. Not only that, but she forces them to sleep in a certain position by holding a rope with a rock at the end. Killua performs well because he is used to this since childhood, but Gon is the problem. The next day, they face a tough day ahead, with a group of difficult rocks in front of them. Gon comes up with an idea, to use Nen energy to break these rocks, and indeed he manages to do it. Bisky is happy because the goal of this test is to use and explore new techniques. This technique is called Shu, which is an advanced technique of Nen or coating, through which you can coat anything you touch with your aura, increasing its power. They continue digging until they reach the city, but their joy is short-lived as Bisky says, "Now we return to the rocky area again." Indeed, they go back to the rocky area, and she tells them, "This time you will train to fight monsters using strategies." Their training begins, and they indeed defeat all the monsters they encounter. Their abilities start to grow, and they reach the second stage of training, which is defense. Bisky focuses her aura in her hand just like Gon does, and this technique is called Ko. She tells them that she will be the one to attack them, so they must block her strikes. These strikes will be concentrated, so the defensive strike must also be focused, meaning using Ko to counter Ko attacks. However, there is a dilemma with this technique. If your opponent attacks you using Ko in an area that is not activated with Ko, you will meet your end. Killua tells her that they need to surround their entire body with Ko. Indeed, I told you about using a technique called Nin, or fortification. So by surrounding your body with a large aura and trying to maintain it for as long as possible, its strength will not match that of Ko, but it will suffice. She asks Gon to release his aura through Ren, and maintain it for an extended period while she attacks him using Ko, a technique that amplifies her destructive power. As soon as she touches him, Gon is sent flying, due to her immense strength, unable to sustain his aura for much longer. Afterward, he continues training by smashing rocks using Ken for half an hour straight. Both Gon and Killua successfully master this skill. Bisky then explains the next step, using the energy for defense by distributing the aura at different ratios. For example, if attacking with an arm, 70% of the aura should focus on the arm, while the remaining 30% surrounds the body for defense. She introduces this technique as Ryu, or flow. They train in this daily, sparring against each other, gradually improving their speed and precision until they can seamlessly distribute their aura with perfect timing. Next, they focus on strengthening their abilities in specific nen categories. They start with enhancement, which is Gon's category. Bisky mentions that rock, paper, scissors is essentially a martial arts strategy. Inspired by her words, Gon develops a new technique called Jajanken, combining the strengths of different nen categories. Rock represents enhancement and delivers a destructive punch. Paper belongs to emission, allowing him to project energy outward. Scissors is tailored for transmutation, creating sharp cutting attacks. To celebrate their progress, Bisky suggests a New Year's party. During this time, Killua recalls he needs to take the Hunter exam and submit his application before the year ends. Bisky advises them to head to the city to obtain a card that will allow them to leave the game. Upon reaching the city, they learn there are two ways to leave: defeating the Wharf Man or obtaining the rare exit card. With the exit card nearly impossible to find, they have no choice but to challenge the Wharf Man. Killua attempts to defeat him to secure the card, enabling him to leave the game and take the exam. However, after leaving for the exam, Killua knows he won't be able to return. The story then shifts to another group of players collecting cards. They manage to gather 90 out of the required 100 cards and celebrate their progress. Suddenly, one member reveals a shocking secret: I'm the bomber. The group is stunned as he announces he has planted bombs inside each of their bodies. When someone lunges at him in anger, the bomber detonates a small explosion, saying, "This is my first ability, Little Flower. It's weak, but enough to demonstrate my point. The real bombs I planted in your bodies will kill you instantly. To disarm them, you must touch me and say the phrase, 'I caught the bomber.' But of course, I won't let you get close." A countdown timer appears on everyone's bodies as he reveals his second ability, Countdown. He warns them, if the timer hits 0, the bombs will explode and you'll die. The only way to disable this is to give me your 90 cards. Otherwise, I'll leave you to your fate. He exits, leaving them desperate and on the verge of death. Will they sacrifice the cards they spent years collecting? As Gon and Bisky train in isolation, a survivor from the bombed group approaches them, explaining the bomber's actions and pleading for their help. He warns them that even if they hand over the cards, the bomber won't spare their lives. Before leaving, he uses his nen to create a mysterious spell, summoning a strange creature to devour the countdown timer from his body. At the same time, the bomber returns to his mansion, accompanied by two allies. They monitor any players attempting to return to the game, ready to confiscate their cards. However, the surviving group executes a clever plan, sacrificing themselves to set off explosions that eliminate the bomber and his companions. Only the player who visited Gon and Bisky survives, thanks to his nen ability. The Spider Gang's leader Krollo is searching for someone capable of removing the nen chain placed on his heart by Kurapika. Members of the Spider Gang learn that this person is on Greed Island. After passing the Hunter exam, Killua reunites with Gon and Bisky, bringing them a contact card that allows them to communicate with other players. They discover a shocking name on the player list, Krollo Lucilfer. Surprised, Killua and Gon consider whether it's really him. Killua exits the game to confirm with Kurapika, who reassures him that Krollo hasn't removed the nen from his heart. Relieved, Killua returns to the game, concluding that the appearance of Krollo's name is a ploy by the Spider Gang. Meanwhile, while Gon, Killua, and Bisky finish their training and shift their focus to gathering the remaining cards to complete the game. They begin completing missions and searching for items that will help them gather a large number of cards. Eventually, they manage to collect 50 cards. Meanwhile, the bomber contacts Tsezguera, the man who tested Gon and Killua before they entered the game. Tsezguera is one of the oldest players in the game and has already gathered 95 cards, nearing completion. The reason for their contact is to trade some cards. Tsezguera does not know that the man contacting him is the bomber. Initially hesitant, Tsezguera devises a plan and agrees to the trade. During the exchange, the bomber's two accomplices ambush Tsezguera and his group, stealing 8 cards from them. This confirms for Tsezguera that this man is indeed the bomber. With this theft, the bomber's group now has 98 cards. They only need 2 more, Card Number 2 and Card Number 75. Card Number 2 has yet to be found by anyone, which prompts Tsezguera to insist on continuing the search for it. At the same time, Gon and Killua visit a group of ninjas afflicted by a certain plague. They help the ninjas cure the disease to earn Card Number 75. Shortly after, they receive a message from someone informing them that Genthru's team, the Bombers Group, is close to completing the game game, with 96 cards collected so far. Gon, Killua, and Bisky meet this group and are told that their goal is to stop Genthru from finishing the game. The Bombers team still needs cards number 0, number 2, number 9, and number 75. Card number 0 only activates after collecting 99 cards, making it essential to deny Genthru access to any of the remaining cards. They decide to monopolize card number 2, since it's the only one they can restrict. The other cards are held by other teams. Gon's group changes their destination to the location of card number 2, coincidentally, the same as Sesguera's target. Upon arriving in the city, they find a girl who claims to know information about card number 2. However, she imposes one condition: to free the city from the pirates led by Razor and his 14 devils. If they can eliminate the pirates, she will reveal everything she knows. They reach the pirates' headquarters and confront their leader, demanding that he leave the city. Razor refuses, stating that leaving isn't so simple. Instead, he proposes a contest. If Gon's team wins, the pirates will leave. The contest consists of a series of simple challenges, with 15 players on each side. If 8 players from one side win, that team will be declared the victors. The first match is a boxing contest, but Killua's team loses. Killua realizes that they can't win with such a weak team, and decides it's better to focus on gathering information during the matches. The rest of the group insists that they need 15 participants to enter the matches. They note that the bomber won't be able to meet this requirement, making it impossible for him to acquire the card. This fulfills one of their objectives, leaving Gon, Killua, Bisky, and another member as the only ones aware of the true goal behind these challenges. Even after obtaining the cards, disputes over ownership are inevitable, since each card can only be traded 3 times. Even if they duplicate the cards, they will still face conflicts over who gets to keep them. The solution is to recruit strong individuals who have no interest in the game or collecting cards. Searching through the book of players, they find the name of a powerful individual, Krallo Lucilfer, who is listed as not being interested in card collection. And when they approach him, they discover it's actually Hisoka. They ask him why he chose that name. Hisoka thinks to himself that revealing the truth would lead them to hunt down the Nen remover, whom he intends to find for his duel with Krallo. He tells them he used Krallo's name to locate someone who can remove the curse on his heart. Hisoka also mentions that the Spider Gang is interested in this game, and upon seeing the name, they will come to him. He doesn't disclose that he has already met them. Bisky asks Hisoka to join their group since they are looking for strong allies. Hisoka agrees, but Killua remains suspicious, thinking Hisoka is hiding something. Killua reasons that if Hisoka saw Gon and Bisky training before, it means he was in Masadora. Why would he leave unless he had completed a mission? This likely means he has already met the Spider Gang and is now searching for the Nen remover, who is on this island. However, Killua keeps his suspicions to himself, not wanting to lose Hisoka as an ally at this time. They suggest inviting Sesguera to join them, but don't know his whereabouts. They ask Hisoka if he's seen Sesguera. Hisoka opens his book to check the cards, giving Killua an opportunity to confirm whether Hisoka has encountered any Spider Gang members. Gon finds Sesguera's card in Hisoka's book, but Killua doesn't see any mention of encounters with the Spider Gang. This leaves Killua conflicted about whether Hisoka has truly met them. However, Hisoka had been careful. Before opening the book, he used his technique to alter the names of any Spider Gang members he had met. Realizing this, Killua decides to set the matter aside for now. They go to meet Sesguera, who joins them along with his team, bringing their total to 9 people. They still need 6 more participants to complete a team of 15. They manage to fill these slots with ordinary individuals who are unlikely to demand rewards in the form of cards. Confident in their strategy, they return to the pirates to begin the matches, armed with the knowledge they've gathered about the gang. The matches commence, and Gon and Killua's team starts winning. Eventually, the pirate leader halts the matches and declares that he will fight alone. However, one of his subordinates rebels against his authority, saying he's had enough of the games and challenges. The leader retorts, "Do you want to go back to prison?" But the subordinate is unbothered and incites the others to flee the island. In response, the leader uses a Nen-enhanced energy ball to instantly kill the rebel. Sesguera and Hisoka deduce that this place isn't part of the game, but exists in the real world. They also discover that Razor is one of the creators of the game, and that many of these individuals are death row inmates. The rebel was killed for revealing secrets about the game. Razor tells them, "I will continue the game with my team of players," summoning 7 devils using his Nen. He adds that the island is isolated from the rest of the world, and they can only leave by following the game's rules. Gon asks an important question. Since the game is in the real world, is Gon Freecss on this island? Razor, recognizing him, says, "So, you are definitely Gon. I won't go easy on you. I have direct instructions from your father." Gon's determination ignites, ready to face the challenge. Suddenly, the fake players on Gon's team flee in fear of dying. This forces the team to adapt as the next match requires 8 players against 8. With only 6 members remaining, remaining, they summon 2 creatures to make up the numbers. The match is a dodgeball game where the ball must hit an opponent to eliminate them. If the ball is caught and returned, the thrower is out. Players can re-enter the match once by declaring a return. The match begins, and Razor takes control of the ball. He throws it at one of the summoned creatures, which avoids the ball by switching places with another summoned entity. Razor then targets Gon and Killua, but they dodge, leaving Tisesguera to face the ball. Tisesguera attempts to block it with his aura, but is hit and eliminated from the match. Killua takes the ball next and feels its immense weight, a result of Razor's Nen. He hands it to Hisoka, who uses his bungee gum technique to hurl it at an opposing player. However, 2 of Razor's devils merge into one body to catch the ball. Gon and Killua activate their Ken to prepare for the ball, but it's insufficient to withstand Razor's next throw. Razor launches the ball with tremendous force. Gon shifts to Ko mode to block it, but is struck in the head, flying out of the arena. Injured but determined, Gon tells Killua and Bisky that he'll return after treating his injury. The match continues, with one of the summoned creatures taking Gon's place and throwing the ball at Razor. Razor catches it, but is briefly staggered. A devil intercepts the ball and retaliates, striking the creature and eliminating it from the match. With its summoner out, the creatures disappear, leaving the team further weakened. Razor regains control and targets Killua, who narrowly avoids the ball. It bounces to Bisky, who dodges it as well, sending it to Hisoka. Hisoka prepares to use it, but is caught off guard by a devil who grabs the ball. Hisoka manages to block it in time. However, the ball grazes Bisky's clothing, eliminating her from the match. This leaves only 2 active players. Gon re-enters the arena, ready to end the match. Fueled by rage, he asks Killua to hold the ball steady. Concentrating all his aura into a Jajankan punch, Gon unleashes a devastating blow that sends the ball hurtling toward one of Razor's devils. The devil tries to block it, but fails, being eliminated. Razor praises Gon's strength, remarking on his incredible power for someone so young. Razor retaliates by throwing the ball back with immense force. Gon, Killua, and Hisoka work together to stop it. Gon takes the brunt of the impact, but loses consciousness. Hisoka takes over, using bungee gum to redirect the ball toward Razor. Unable to counter the technique, Razor is struck and eliminated. Razor uses his one-time return to re-enter the match. The game intensifies as Killua sustains severe injuries from catching the ball. Sesguera advises him to withdraw, but Killua refuses, insisting he can continue. Gon, confident in Killua's abilities, supports his decision. In the final round, Bisky throws the ball, striking one of Razor's devils. Razor regains the ball and prepares for his ultimate attack, throwing it with unparalleled force. Gon, Killua, and Hisoka form an impenetrable defense, shocking everyone present, including Razor, who begins to wonder if Gon is truly human. Gon fires the ball back with incredible speed, leaving Razor unable to counter. Defeated, Razor is eliminated, and the pirates are forced to leave the city. Gon and his team return to the girl, who reveals herself to be card number 2. With this revelation, Hisoka quietly departs. Killua tries to stop him, but Hisoka tells them he doesn't need anything from them, and that they can contact him if they ever need help. Shortly after, the bomber, Genthru, contacts them, announcing that his team has found card number 2. He demands they hand it over, promising not to kill them in exchange. Genthru tells Gon, if you want to trade, come to the entrance of Macedora City. If you don't show up, you and your companions are doomed. He also reveals that the participants who competed alongside Gon and Killua in the race have been killed. Gon confirms this grim news upon seeing their names erased from the book. Furious, Gon declares, I will defeat you and crush you completely. If you're truly a man, come and face me. Killua and Bisky try to calm him down, preventing him from acting recklessly, and the call with Genthru is disconnected. Sesguera assures the group that he will hold on to the cards to keep Genthru's group distracted. They don't know your true power, he says. I'll buy you time to prepare and recover. Fighting is the only option, and there's no escaping it. They then part ways, with Sesguera heading toward Genthru under the guise of a card trade. However, instead of trading, Sesguera declares battle. Sesguera's team manages to steal several cards from Genthru's group and vanishes, using assistance from a helper who gathers mobility cards to aid their escape. This strategy provides Gon and Killua time to recover and train with Bisky, to restore Krollo's powers, and secure his long-awaited duel with the leader. Sesguera and Genthru engage in a game of cat and mouse, with Genthru chasing Sesguera, who uses his mobility cards to escape repeatedly. Eventually, Sesguera runs out of mobility cards and decides to leave the game with his team. They wait outside the game in the castle while Genthru and his group guard the game entrance to prevent them from re-entering. After 10 days, the cards Sesguera held would expire, rendering them useless. However, unknown to Genthru, Sesguera had left these cards with their helper, who continued observing Genthru's group from a distance. This ploy gives Gon and Killua enough time to recover and prepare for the ultimate confrontation with Genthru. Gon, Killua, and Bisky receive a call from their ally, warning them that Genthru's group is on its way. When Genthru's team arrives, Gon and his companions appear surprised but are ready for the confrontation. They evade Genthru's group until they run out of mobility cards. Genthru demands their surrender, but Killua devises a plan to split up and isolate each member of Genthru's team. One member chases Bisky, engaging her in battle. She reveals her true strength, overwhelming her opponent and defeating him. Meanwhile, Killua faces another member of Genthru's team, but struggles to take him down quickly. Lastly, Genthru confronts Gon directly. Genthru mocks him, saying, "Do you realize that I'm the bomber?" Gon retaliates with a series of attacks, which Genthru easily dodges before striking Gon and knocking him to the ground. Gon rises and lands more hits, determined to show his true power. Genthru activates his abilities and charges at Gon. Thanks to the techniques he learned from Bisky, Gon uses Kyo to narrowly avoid the attack. Genthru counters with a powerful blow to Gon's stomach, taunting, "If you use Kyo in your arm, you can't protect the rest of your body." The attack leaves Gon coughing up blood. Genthru prepares for another strike, but Gon, recalling Bisky's teachings, manages to absorb the blow and remain standing. Frustrated, Genthru warns Gon that he'll use both hands to detonate his next attack. "Now show me which arm you'll protect with Kyo," he sneers. Gon remembers asking Bisky about facing a bomber who could use both hands. Although unsure of what to do, Gon decides to act. Genthru grabs both of Gon's hands, intending to detonate them. Instead, he feels an odd sensation and notices blood. Gon counters with his Jajanken technique. Genthru, caught off guard, stumbles over a rock, allowing Gon to capitalize on his weakened state. Gon has sustained significant injuries, losing most of one arm while barely retaining partial function in the other. Despite his injuries, Gon taunts Genthru, saying, "Come at me." Gon produces a card, warning Genthru, "This is your last chance to surrender." Genthru pretends to give up, taking out his book to hand over his cards. However, he suddenly strikes Gon, breaking his collarbone, and attempts another blow to his back. Using Kyo, Gon narrowly avoids the attack. In response, Gon activates a card that releases a flammable liquid, drenching Genthru and rendering him unable to detonate his abilities without risking his own life. Gon uses Jajanken to force Genthru into retreat, trapping him in a pitfall designed by Gon and Killua. Genthru finds himself cornered. Gon appears again, throwing another card that transforms into a massive rock, sealing Genthru's exit. Left with no options, Genthru tries to escape, but finds Gon waiting for him, ready with Jajanken. Genthru attempts to surrender, but it's too late. Gon defeats him, confiscates all his cards, and uses an Angel's Breath card, a rare SS-class card that summons a miraculous healer. The card heals Gon's injuries, restoring his arms completely. Their helper later reveals that he won't finish the game, since the billionaire who hired him isn't interested in completing it. Sesguera also decides not to return, seeing no point in finishing the game. The billionaire's sole goal was to obtain the Angel's Breath card to heal his deceased lover, whose passing drained his desire to finish the game. Gon's team collects their cards, reaching 99 in total. The only remaining card is number 0. An announcement informs all players of a final challenge. Whoever answers the most questions correctly will receive card number 0. Each team competes to solve as many questions as possible. Meanwhile, the Nen Remover frees Genthru from the bomb planted in his body. He then visits Hisoka, who convinces him to heal Crollo. Gon successfully answers the most questions and earns card number 0, completing the game. He receives a message directing him to a castle where he meets one of the game's creators. The creator congratulates Gon, telling him, "You may now take 3 cards with you into the real world." After returning to their friends, Gon, Killua, and Bisky decide on the cards they will take into the real world. Bisky chooses the Planet Jewel, a treasure she had always dreamed of, while Gon and Killua pick Gon's necklace and card number 2. They finalize their choices and exit the game. As Gon summons the chest to claim their cards, he secretly swaps one card for a non-restricted card, Teleportation, which allows a single use in the real world. Gon plans to use this card for another purpose, explaining, "When I first entered the game, I should have been the first player, but I discovered another name, Nig. I feel like someone was watching me. The name Nig uses the same letters as my father's name, Ging. This must be a message from him." Gon asks Bisky if she will stay with them, but she declines, explaining that she has other matters to attend to. Gon then uses the teleportation card to transport himself and Killua to Nig's location. They arrive at a remote area where they spot a man fishing by the water. Gon wonders, could this be my father? As they approach, the man suddenly rushes toward them and attacks, striking them and conjuring a weapon to fire at them. Gon and Killua dodge the shots, but as they recover, they notice strange ants on the ground. Confused, they ask the man why he attacked them. He replies, "If I hadn't stopped you, those ants would have attacked you. These are no ordinary ants. They are Chimera ants, flesh-eating insects that attack any creature, even humans. If I hadn't intervened, you would have been their prey." A memory surfaces in Gon's mind, and he realizes, "You're the same person who saved me when I was a child on Whale Island." The man responds, "You've grown, Gon." He introduces himself as Kite and reveals that he was Ging's apprentice. Gon concludes that this meeting must have been orchestrated by his father. He asks Kite about the Greed Island game and whether Ging had chosen the name Nig for him. Kite admits that he has been to the game but doesn't recall the name he used. This confirms Gon's suspicions that everything was part of his father's plan. Kite explains his role as a hunter, specializing in the study of living creatures. His current focus is on the Chimera ants. As they wait for Kite's team to arrive, he shares that they discovered a claw belonging to the queen of this species. The claw's size, comparable to a human finger, suggests that these ants have grown to an alarming size. This discovery deeply concerns Kite. He tells Gon and Killua to prepare, as they will join him on this mission. Meanwhile, in the far south, the Chimera Ant Queen is feeding on any living creature she encounters. She has grown to a colossal size, her ultimate goal being to birth the most powerful Chimera Ant King in history. As Kite and his team make their way to the Queen's suspected location, they theorize that her growth is the result of a genetic mutation. The Queen reproduces through a method called phagogenic reproduction, meaning that by consuming living creatures, she can pass on their genetic traits to her offspring. This poses a grave threat, as she becomes stronger with each new species she consumes. The Queen continues producing new generations of ants, divided into workers and soldiers whose sole purpose is to protect the Queen, the King, and the future second-generation Queen. Her relentless feeding ensures that her offspring grow stronger and more dangerous. Killua shares Kite's concerns, noting, if her claws are this size, she must be over 2 meters tall. She could devour humans instantly. Kite agrees, emphasizing the danger they face. The Queen's first generation of offspring begins emerging, each bearing unique traits from various creatures. She orders them to bring her the finest food, and one of them captures 2 human children, whom the Queen devours. Finding their taste exquisite, she commands her ants to bring her only humans from now on, escalating the threat. Kite and his team reach the coastal area where they found the claw. Using tracking dogs, they search for more clues but find nothing. Kite deduces that ocean currents carried the claw to this location. By studying the currents, they trace its origin to a southern country called NGL, Neo-Green Life. This isolated nation rejects all forms of technology, relying entirely on nature. As a result, news rarely escapes its borders to monitor what happens there. Kite concludes that if the Queen is in NGL, her existence would remain a secret, and her threat unchecked. Determined to uncover the truth, they change their course to NGL. Elsewhere, a hunter specializing in monster tracking receives reports of a missing journalist in NGL. The journalist left behind a hidden recording describing an attack by unknown creatures. His voice on the recording mentions giant insects, prompting the hunter and his team to head to NGL as well. Back at the Chimera Ant Hive, the Queen gives birth to her first intelligent offspring, bearing human traits. The ant not only resembles a human, but can also speak their language, astounding the Queen. She appoints him as the squadron leader, and he begins organizing raids on humans, capturing them to feed the Queen and further her growth. The Chimera Ant Queen relocates and establishes a massive colony in preparation for the birth of the King. With her army and soldiers growing larger and stronger, the ants now possess powerful genetics. Entire swarms form, and some begin engaging in battles using human weapons. Despite NGL's ban on technology, outsiders who exploit the region for their purposes, such as manufacturing weapons and drugs, supply these tools, hiding behind the ignorance of the local populace. One of the swarm leaders confronts the other ants about their use of human bombs. He notices that the ants have begun naming themselves to distinguish their identities, which he presents to the Queen. She agrees to grant names to her swarm leaders, signifying the ants' increasing intelligence. As a result, the Queen begins preparations for birthing her royal guards, the King's dedicated protectors. Meanwhile, Kite and his team reach NGL's borders, transitioning to horseback to navigate the region without technology. Simultaneously, another hunter and his team arrive to investigate the mysterious ants. On the other side of the country, a group of Chimera ant swarm leaders conspires to overthrow NGL's ruler, seizing control of its factories and taking over the capital. Shockingly, some ants rebel against the Queen, revealing human-like traits of ambition and independence. The hunter team stumbles upon a soldier's corpse, but is suddenly attacked by Chimera ants. They are stunned by the creature's size and ferocity, struggling to fend them off with Nen while attempting to escape. However, the situation worsens when they witness swarms of flying ants carrying human corpses back to the colony. The hunter leader, realizing the gravity of the threat, urges his team to inform the Hunter Association of the impending danger. Their plan is interrupted when a swarm leader ambushes them, beheading one of the hunters. Another hunter attempts to defend himself with Nen, only to be attacked by ants capable of sensing Nen. The situation spirals out of control when the leader is subdued by a female ant who hypnotizes him, intending to take him to the Queen for interrogation. The remaining team member, a young woman, narrowly escapes to deliver a warning to the world, but she is killed by an ant leader before she can flee. One of her messages reaches Kite, detailing the colony's location and urging the Hunter Association for help. Realizing the severity of the situation, situation, Kite tells Gon and Killua, "This is far worse than we imagined. If anything happens, I won't be able to protect you. You must fend for yourselves. Decide now if you want to stay." Despite the risks, Gon and Killua refuse to leave. Kite sends his team to request reinforcements from the Hunter Association, while he, Gon, and Killua advance toward the Chimera ant colony. As they investigate, Kite pieces together evidence of the ants' destruction. He confirms that the queen must be found and stopped before the king is born. Meanwhile, the queen continues feasting voraciously on human corpses to nourish herself for childbirth. The swarm leaders discuss the strange life force that killed their soldiers. A female leader announces that she has captured a human she refers to as a rare prey, explaining that these humans possess energy equivalent to 1,000 ordinary humans. Colt, the first swarm leader, suggests that the ability to sense this life force may vary among ants, depending on their strength. When news arrives that one of their soldiers has left the colony without permission, Colt sets out to retrieve him. Simultaneously, Kite, Gon, and Killua follow a trail of blood that leads them to gruesomely hung horse carcasses. As they investigate, a rogue Chimera ant appears behind them. Unbeknownst to them, Colt observes from a distance, sensing their aura but hesitating to engage. The rogue ant attacks, prompting Kite to activate his aura but instruct Gon and Killua to handle the fight themselves. He emphasizes, "This is one of the weakest Chimera ants. Stronger ones await us. Prove you can handle this." Gon and Killua activate their auras. Killua leaps into the air, using his electric ability to paralyze the ant, allowing Gon to unleash a devastating Jajinkan attack that sends the creature flying. Colt intervenes, rescuing the ant and retreating. Kite commends their effort but warns, "You lack experience, but you're improving. From now on, you'll face worse dangers. Hell awaits us." They press on, finding a mountain with strange openings. Kite explains, "This isn't the colony. These are the factories of NGL's ruler. Inside, they find no survivors. All the workers have been slaughtered." Suddenly, Kite senses an approaching presence. Gon and Killua feel nothing, so Kite explains, "This is N, a technique that lets you detect anything within your field. Mine extends to a 45-meter radius." A Chimera ant appears, leading a group of enslaved humans treated as dogs. The ant kills one of the humans instantly. Shocked, Gon prepares to attack, but Kite cautions, "Wait, there are more enemies." 2 more ants emerge, and Kite declares, "We must eliminate them all and capture their leader." The battle begins. Killua faces one ant, using his assassination techniques. Though injured by a poison blade, Killua's immunity to toxins allows him to recover and crush the ant's head. Meanwhile, Kite confronts the leader, skillfully deflecting its attacks before finishing it off with his weapon. Gon faces the last ant, using his Jajinkan scissors attack to sever it into pieces. However, the ant pretends to be defeated, waiting to strike back. Kite steps in at the last moment, crushing its head. He admonishes Gon, "Never assume they're dead until you destroy their heads." Gon and Killua ask about Kite's weapon. He reveals that his ability, Crazy Slots, randomly selects one of 9 weapons. The choice is beyond his control, and he must use the selected weapon before switching to another. The group continues their journey toward the Chimera ant colony, but a newly evolved swarm of ants is tracking them by sensing the absence of their fallen comrades. The ants send signals to nearby colonies, creating a coordinated effort to surround and eliminate Kite and his team. Meanwhile, the injured Chimera ant soldier under Colt's care writhes in agony from Gon's attack. Colt is horrified to witness the soldier's Nen aura awakening, realizing that the traits inherited from humans are enabling him to use Nen. Gon's powerful blow inadvertently opened the ant's energy pathways. A sinister idea takes root in Colt's mind as he approaches the soldier, demanding, "Hit me with your power so I can acquire it too." Back with Kite, Gon, and Killua, they find themselves surrounded by a large group of Chimera ants. One of the ants proposes individual battles as the only way forward. Kite agrees, seeing it as a strategic opportunity to eliminate them one by one. The first duel pits Gon against a Chimera ant with transformation abilities. Gon struggles to adapt as the ant uses its tail to launch deceptive, multi-directional attacks. Ultimately, Gon counters, grabbing the ant with brute force and crushing its internal organs, leaving everyone stunned at his raw strength. Killua steps up next, facing an ant capable of generating electricity. Drawing on his own mastery of electricity, Killua overwhelms the ant in an instant. Finally, Kite takes his turn. Using his Crazy Slots ability, he summons a scythe, unleashing a massive Nen attack that eradicates the remaining ants in one sweep. Despite their success, Kite warns, "Stay alert. Some of them might not be truly dead." Though the group presses forward, Kite cannot shake a sense of impending doom. His unease grows as they approach the colony. Elsewhere, the Chimera ant soldier whose Nen awakens seeks answers. He demands to know from a captured hunter how to use this power, only to learn that the queen has already consumed the captive. Unknown to the soldier, the hunter remains alive, hiding among the bones of the queen's victims, paralyzed with fear at the realization that an ant has mastered Nen. Suddenly, a terrifying aura envelops the colony. Everyone freezes as the first royal guard, Pitu, emerges. Her overwhelming presence dwarfs anything they've felt before. Even the Nen-wielding ant trembles, knowing he is no match for her power. Pitu's aura rivals that of seasoned hunters, signifying a new level of danger. Pitu immediately notices the human hiding under the bones, and commands the ants to retrieve him for experimentation. The hunter is subjected to cruel experiments as Pitu learns everything about Nen and its principles. The Queen's army begins systematically unlocking Nen abilities in all the soldiers, vastly amplifying their threat. The Hunter Association receives reports of the Chimera ants and dispatches Chairman Isaac Natero to lead an extermination mission. Support units are mobilized to NGL, setting the stage for a large-scale confrontation. Meanwhile, Kite and his team continue tracking the retreating swarm leaders back to the colony. Gon and Killua marvel at Kite's constant use of Nen, realizing that he is the first real hunter they've encountered. Kite advises them, "I won't train you here, but remember this. Hunting is about willpower. Strengthen your resolve, and your Nen will naturally evolve through battle." Kite hands Gon his father's hunter license, explaining, "Your father challenged me to find him, and that's why I met you on Whale Island. It's your turn now, Gon. If you find him, return this to him." Gon promises to fulfill this task, inspired by the connection to his father. At the colony, Pitu oversees the unlocking of Nen among the ants. She suddenly senses an approaching presence and moves to confront it. Simultaneously, Kite feels a foreboding presence unlike anything before. As they near the colony, Kite commands Gon and Killua to flee, but they are confused by his urgency. In a flash, Pitu appears, slicing off Kite's arm with terrifying precision. Her gaze radiates pure malice, paralyzing Killua with fear. Gon screams in rage, but Killua knocks him unconscious to prevent a reckless attack. Kite commends Killua's quick thinking, urging him to escape with Gon. Carrying his unconscious friend, Killua flees, overwhelmed by guilt and doubt. As he runs, Killua reflects, "We were overconfident." Kite's arm was severed in an instant. If we hadn't been here, maybe he wouldn't have suffered like this. How can we possibly fight these creatures? Despair begins to take hold, marking a critical moment of weakness for Killua. The confrontation between Kite and Pitu concludes with Kite's tragic death. After escaping with Gon beyond the borders of NGL, Killua contacts Kite's allies to inform them of the events. Fortunately, they are already en route with reinforcements from the Hunter Association. Chairman Netero arrives with 2 elite hunters, the towering and formidable Morel and the tactical and composed Nob. When they hear Killua's account, he warns them, "Even with your strength, you can't match the power of this enemy." Morel challenges his assertion, stating, "You're mistaken. In a Nen battle, power alone doesn't dictate the outcome. Battles can turn in an instant. You lost the moment you let their aura overpower you and ran from the fight." The harsh words leave Killua speechless and introspective, burdened by doubt and guilt. Netero informs Killua that 2 of Morel's students, Knuckle and Shoot, will be joining them. He issues a challenge. "The decision of whether you'll join us lies with you. Prove your strength by defeating these 2 in battle. Only the strongest will accompany us." Killua and Gon retreat to a nearby village to recover. There they find a challenge note from Knuckle and Shoot, inviting them to a duel. As Gon remains unconscious, Killua stays by his side, wrestling with the weight of their loss and his own perceived failure. When Gon awakens, he thanks Killua for stopping him, admitting, "If you hadn't stopped me, I would have been a hindrance to Kite." However, Killua, consumed by guilt, responds, "But I let Kite die." Gon firmly disagrees, insisting, "Kite is alive. He wouldn't let himself be killed by that thing." Convinced that Kite is still alive, the 2 resolve to train harder and return to NGL to rescue him. But first, they must overcome Knuckle and Shoot. Returning to the location of the challenge, a girl named Palm appears, explaining, "There's more to the challenge than you've been told. Follow me and I'll fill you in." Palm, a disciple of Kanav, reveals their task. "You have 1 month to defeat Knuckle and Shoot. Only then can you prove you're ready for what lies ahead." She also confesses her desire to accompany them to NGL, driven by her determination to fight alongside her mentor. Gon and Killua begin their search for Knuckle and Shoot, initially evading recognition. Killua observes, "They don't know who we are yet, but their strength is undeniable. We'll need to train before we can stand a chance." Gon agrees, emphasizing, "We're not training just to defeat them. We're training to save Kite and face those creatures." Their training intensifies when Biscuit reappears, summoned by Palm to assist them. Biscuit begins by focusing on extending their ability to maintain Ren. Initially, they struggle to last even an hour before exhaustion sets in. Gradually, they push their limits, knowing that their survival depends on mastering this foundation of Nen. Meanwhile, Pitu experiments on Kite's reconstructed body, intrigued by his potential as a sparring subject. Her gruesome experiments and growing mastery over Nen pose an ever greater threat. As the month progresses, Gon and Killua finally sustain 3 hours of Ren with without interruption, a milestone that prompts Biscuit to declare, "You're ready to face Knuckle." Their encounter with Knuckle proves challenging. Initially dismissive of the young boys, Knuckle underestimates them until Gon unleashes a powerful Jajonkin that catches him off guard. Despite landing a solid hit, Knuckle recovers quickly and recognizes the boys' potential. Instead of ending the fight, he offers them the opportunity to train alongside him, realizing their goal is to grow stronger for their mission in NGL. While Gon and Killua train with Knuckle, Morel and Kinov systematically eliminate Chimera Ant soldiers using their advanced Nen abilities. Morel's dense smoke creates confusion, while Kinov's portal-based techniques transport enemies to Netero for execution. Their efforts disrupt the Chimera Ants' operations, but the ants adapt by pulling their forces back to the colony. As the deadline approaches, Gon and Killua prepare for their final test against Knuckle and Shoot. Their progress is undeniable, but the battle ahead will determine whether they're truly ready for the dangers that await in NGL. As Gon and Killua search for Knuckle and Shoot, Gon charges at Knuckle with newfound determination. Despite his improvements, Knuckle's superior speed and power leave him at a disadvantage. Knuckle taunts him, pointing out two major flaws in his technique: its lengthy charge time and its inability to provide adequate defense during execution. Gon, however, refuses to give up, using his creativity to adapt. He fakes a powerful Jajankin attack to distract Knuckle, then surprises him with a well-timed follow-up. Despite this clever maneuver, Gon collapses from exhaustion before landing a decisive blow. Killua, deeply concerned, carries Gon back to their hotel. That night, Biscuit pulls Killua aside for a private conversation. "You have a fatal flaw," she tells him bluntly. "You retreat too quickly when faced with a stronger opponent. Even against equals, you doubt yourself and always assume the worst." She continues, "This isn't entirely your fault. It's a result of the training you endured under Illumi. But if you don't overcome this mindset, you'll inevitably lead Gon to his death." Killua is struck speechless by her words, which weigh heavily on his mind as he reflects on his journey with Gon. The next day, Gon awakens, fully recovered, and after that, the two gather their courage and head into battle. The final fight between Killua, Gon, Knuckle, and Shoot. Who will emerge victorious? They form two teams, Gon against Knuckle and Killua against Shoot. The fight begins between Gon and Knuckle, but this time, Knuckle uses all his strength. He charges at Gon with incredible speed, but Gon uses Ren to feel all his strikes. Gon can't block his hits, but he feels something strange. It's not just pain, but he senses his power increasing in a bizarre way, manifesting as a small doll-like creature on his hands with a 3-digit number that keeps growing. Gon doesn't understand what's happening, but Knuckle explains everything to him, saying it's from his special technique. He allowed Gon to borrow a part of his aura, and if he doesn't fight well at the right time, his strength will run out. Every minute, this number will increase by 10 seconds, and this doll will keep track of the current count, so there's no need to fight it. Gon charges at him again, but the same thing happens. Gon remains unaffected, but his power increases once more. He looks at the doll and sees that its number has doubled. Gon is confused, and Knuckle tells him that his power is represented by a specific number that varies from person to person based on their training. If he exceeds this number, his strength will be completely depleted. Gon still doesn't understand anything, but he looks behind him to find that the doll has grown gigantic. And not only that, but the number on it has tripled. He realizes that while he was talking to Knuckle, the count was still ongoing. Even if he stood still without fighting, the doll would keep counting. He finds that he only has 4 minutes left before his strength runs out. Gon asks, "What happens if I lose?" Knuckle replies, "Then this doll will turn into a creature, becoming a limiter for your Ren, and it will stay with you for 30 days. Forcing you to remain in Zetsu during this time. In short, you won't be able to use Nen for a whole month." Gon charges at Knuckle, but Knuckle counters with a powerful strike that increases Gon's number even more, saying, "As long as you haven't landed any hits, I won't take any damage from your attacks." Gon is in a very tough spot. Meanwhile, on the other side, Killua stands facing Shoot. Shoot removes part of his clothing, and Killua is shocked to see that he has 3 arms. Not only that, but these arms are flying in the air, and he also has a box like a bird cage. Killua thinks to himself, so, he'll attack with his arms. What's the purpose of this box? At that moment, Killua decides to fight from a distance and pulls out his yo-yo. Shoot launches his arms at him, but Killua deflects them with the yo-yo. Suddenly, Shoot darts toward Killua at incredible speed. At that moment, Killua hears his brother's voice in his head saying, "Run," and he remembers Pixie's words. He tries to execute the electric technique, but Shoot stops him at the last moment. Killua can't control his body, which prevents him from attacking. This is Killua's curse. Killua runs away, hearing his brother's voice echoing in his head, but he remembers Pixie's words and decides to stand and face him. But suddenly, he can't see with his left eye, so he quickly retreats and notices that his left side is completely vanished, revealing that this is Shoot's technique. Killua doesn't know what to do now. Shoot attacks him again, and Killua does nothing but run away. Killua decides to overcome his curse, drops his yo-yo, and rushes toward Shoot, only to find that Shoot anticipated his movement and moves away. At that moment, terror grips Killua Killua's heart, and he wonders how Shoot knew his technique, feeling lost about what to do. On the other side of the story, the three guards gather, and only the birth of the king remains, which is about to happen. All the ants in the kingdom gather around the place, and one ant approaches to check on the queen's condition, only for the king to immediately cut off its head with his tail and orders Colt to wipe his tail. But Colt refuses, so another ant leader approaches and wipes the tail to avoid trouble. All the ants present are shocked by what they witness. After that, the three royal guards come to tell him that they have prepared his special meal. "We are your guards, and we must meet all your needs and obey all your commands." Then they leave, and all the ants of the kingdom go to check on the queen, but it's too late. Her internal organs have been completely crushed, and their healing techniques will be of no use. The ant leaders gather and say that the queen is the foundation of the colony, and if she dies, the colony will collapse. Therefore, their only solution is to seek help from humans. Colt goes to President Nitro's location, carrying a white flag, announcing their surrender to meet both Morao and Nav. He tells them, "We want to surrender, but with one condition: save the queen. The new king has already been born, but with him comes destruction. If the queen dies, no one will be able to control the swarm leaders, and they will leave the colony and start breeding outside of it, spreading across the world and destroying everything." Morao and Nav respond, "We will take you to the president, and he will consider the matter." Meanwhile, the ant leaders have left the colony and are spreading across the world. While the king searches for a new place, he encounters the Eastern Gordo Republic and decides to head there. On the other side, we go to President Nitro, who contacts a group of researchers after hearing Colt's words about the Chimera ants, asking them to send all surgeons and specialists in artificial organs. Then he turns to Morao and says, "Take your winning team and go to the colony with Colt." Nitro tells them he will go see an old acquaintance and leaves them. They then head to the colony with Colt, finding that all the ants have left except for a few, who are starting to fall apart. They begin to treat the queen, but all their attempts fail. She is in her last moments to say her final words to Colt. "I've thought of a name for the king, and you must tell him, Meruem." After that, the queen passes away, and Colt cries for her, saying, "This is the second time I couldn't protect something." Meanwhile, Gon and Killua return to the hotel, where they find Palm angry with them for losing the fight and for not being able to take her to the country of Aang. Gon tries to calm her down, and she agrees to go out with him on the condition that he goes out with her. He tells her he's okay with that, but not today because he needs to train, and they will go out together tomorrow. While they are training, Gon receives a call from Knuckle and Shout informing him that they found Kaido, but he's under the influence of the technique, and they will bring him back in 3 days. Both Gon and Killua are happy, but they don't know the truth. At that moment, the ants begin attacking humans, and news spreads in the media. Killua hears this news and decides to follow Gon on his date to help him if needed, as he is unable to use Nen. Gon and Palm go out, and Killua follows them, but he suddenly feels the presence of a soldier from the Chimera ants. Killua tries to lure him away from Gon to escape, and goes after the soldier, only to be surprised that it's the same soldier they encountered before. But this time the situation is different. He has managed to use Nen and has become stronger. Killua has no choice but to fight, but he hasn't started yet. He hears his brother's voice in his head saying, "Run!" But Killua reacts again. He knows that if he runs, he will leave Gon in danger. After seeing the fear in Killua, the ant soldier attacks him with full force, hitting him fiercely and enjoying it, torturing him. Killua can't resist the intense pain in his head, and his brother's voice repeats, "Run!" But Killua fights against it for Gon's sake. He cries and says, "I have to protect him no matter the cost. We are best friends." The voice repeats in his head, but Killua tries to resist more and more. The ant soldier approaches him and is about to grab him, but at that moment, Killua remembers his memories with Gon and removes something from his head, disappearing suddenly. The ant soldier doesn't understand what happened, and Killua appears again from behind after removing something from his head, which had been implanted by his brother. Now he has managed to return to his former self. He has finally freed himself. He tells the soldier, "I have a message for you, ants. If any of you come near us again, I will kill you." The soldier screams at him, but in the blink of an eye, Killua beheads him and crushes his head, finishing him off. When he returns to the hotel, he finds Palm holding Gon captive with a technique, pointing a weapon at him to force him to love her against his will. Killua approaches her and says, "What are you doing?" only to be surprised by her stabbing motion with the knife aimed at him, but he quickly dodges the attack. Killua takes Gon and quickly escapes from the place, but she can, through her techniques, track their location. When she goes out to find them, she is surprised to see her teacher, Nav, who asks her about Gon's and Killua's whereabouts. She tells him where they are and asks why he came early, as their meeting is in 2 days. He tells her that everything is going as planned. They will use these 2 days to monitor both Gon and Killua to see if they are ready to face Kaido. The 3rd day arrives, and both Gon and Killua go to Knuckle and Shout, where it is revealed that Kaido is trapped in Shout's box, which allows him to capture part of his opponent's body without causing harm. explaining Killua's missing eye during his fight with Shout. The cage door opens, and Kaido steps out, his body returning to its normal size, surprising Gon with the number of injuries and wounds on Kaido's body, as they had been using him to train the ant soldiers, warning them to stay away from him because he would attack them. But Gon doesn't listen and approaches, prompting Kaido to attack him several times. But Gon doesn't retaliate, telling himself that Kaido isn't weak to that extent. Afterward, Gon dodges his attack and hugs him, saying, "I'm sorry, all of this happened because of us, so just rest now. I will bring back your true self. I will save you from what you're in." Indeed, Kaido calms down, and the threads controlling him become visible. On the other side, the king and the 3 guards have arrived at the Eastern Gorto Republic and stormed its royal palace. The palace guards came out, and the king smiled when he saw the head of the palace guards and sensed his Nen aura. He smiled and got excited, saying, "This must be a rare prey." In the blink of an eye, he eliminated them as if they were dolls, feeding on that rare prey and savoring the taste. He gets excited and asks for more of these prey, while Beto admires the sight of the king devouring these prey, watching him absorb the aura of the prey he feeds on. Days pass, and one day before Gon's Nen suppression period ends, Gon, Killua, Knuckle, and Shout head to a village near the Eastern Gordo Republic. They go to a restaurant and hear in the news that the head of that republic is inviting all the residents to celebrate in 10 days, and this celebration will take place in the capital of the republic. At that time, Beto is the one controlling the corpse of the president, and the purpose of this celebration is to select the residents who use Nen so that the king can feed on them. A message comes from President Netero, telling them to split up and keep the royal guards away from the king, taking care of them themselves. They need to come up with a plan to eliminate the king and his guards. By the end of the day, especially at midnight, Gon's Nen restraint will wear off, but Morao apologizes to him, saying, "I'm not convinced about your joining us, and you're not worthy of joining us. So try to attack me as if I'm the reason for what happened to Kaido. If your attack is weak, we'll choose someone else to complete the mission." Gon replies, "You'll get what you asked for." At that moment, Morao activates his Nen, ready for Gon's strikes, who is recalling everything that happened to Kaido, igniting a spark of revenge within him. Gon unleashes his Janken, releasing terrifying energy, shocking everyone present, including Morao. But Killua comes up from behind and says, "Calm down, Gon." Gon regains his composure and apologizes to Morao for his recklessness, who laughs and says, "Welcome." Then he tells them, "Now we'll split into pairs. Gon and Killua will go after Pitu as they wish, and Knuckle and Shoot will pursue the royal guard named Yugi, while I and Nav will go after Boof, and finally, President Isaac Netero will face the Ant King." We return to Gon and Killua, who want to get rid of the day of the celebration, and are trying hard to do so. They go to a village and enter one of the houses, but they find no one there, only signs of a break-in and blood. They follow the trail of blood to find a group of corpses outside, being fed on by some animals, saying that through Pitu's technique, she will control the military soldiers and kill those who cannot use Nen. But Killua has a solution. He will eliminate those soldiers and warn the residents about them. Gon agrees to Killua's plan, but says he will go alone, adding, "Get ready, Gon. Don't forget that your main goal is to eliminate Pitu." As they walk, someone is watching them from a distance, deciding to keep an eye on Gon while he sits alone. He senses an ant soldier approaching him and attacks, but Gon dodges his strike. The soldier attacks again, but Gon surprises him and deflects his blow, using his strength to eliminate him. At that time, Killua is gathering the residents and trying to warn and educate them, and indeed, the residents begin to respond. At that moment, Pitu senses this and decides to send ant soldiers after Killua to stop him. Meanwhile, Gon feels the presence of someone watching him, luring him into the desert, saying, "We're now in the desert, and you have nowhere to hide, so show yourself and face me." Indeed, one of the ant soldiers appears, resembling a lizard, and introduces himself, saying he was a squad leader before the queen died. Gon asks him, "Why were you tracking me?" He replies that he has no intention of harming him, and Gon believes him, shocking the lizard. They start talking to each other. Gon is with the lizard man, who tells him that he has the ability to become invisible. He doesn't escape to another place, but stays where he is, yet no one can see him. Gon asks him how he does that, and he replies that he holds his breath. When he holds his breath, his body disappears, and he can't be sensed, even if someone touches him. This technique is called the perfect plan. I exist, but no one can feel me. And you are the only person I told about my ability, because I want you to be my partner. And Gon agrees. The lizard man tells him that his goal is to take revenge on the Ant King, as this king killed someone to whom I owed my life, and he decapitated him in the blink of an eye. His name was Peggy. I didn't know he was the same person who raised me, and then I started to recall memories of when I was human, and he was the one who raised me, which is why I want to take revenge on this king. Then, the lizard man says to Gon, "I have another technique besides the one you saw." He then holds his hands and activates his aura, pulling Gon into it, and they go to a bird. He asks Gon to touch it, and he finds that it doesn't react or move. And once the technique ends, the bird moves and flies, which means he has the ability to merge with it in his technique, the perfect plan, a technique through which anyone can share their aura. And at that moment, Gon realizes how dangerous this technique is. The lizard man continues, "So you can deliver any blow at the perfect moment, which is why I need a perfect partner to share this technique with. Therefore, you are the ideal person to deliver the blow to the king." But Gon tells him that he has the perfect partner who shares this power with him. After that, Gon contacts Knuckle and sets a meeting place, while the lizard man is secretly watching them because he doesn't trust them, deciding to listen to their conversation first before deciding whether to ally with them or not. His first impression of both Knuckle and Shout was very bad, but he changes his mind when he sees Knuckle's kindness and compassion for animals, so he agrees to join them. On the other hand, the king is wasting his time before the celebration begins by playing games, inviting the strongest players in the world and challenging them in games. With every win, he eliminates that player, finishing all the games and taking down their international champions. Only one game remains, which is Junkie. The strongest player in this game enters, and it turns out that this player is blind. After the game starts, he notices that the air pressure changes, and even though she can't see, she opens her eyes when she plays and can defeat the king with a very simple strategy. This isn't enough for her to show him her true power. The game continues throughout the night. Each time, the king loses until he starts to get angry, but he won't kill her until he can win against her and satisfy his ego. So the king says to her, "What do you think we bet?" and tells her, "If you win, I will grant you any wish you want, and if you lose, I will cut off your right arm." The girl thinks and says to him, "What do you think we bet on something else, my life?" The king is shocked by what he hears and asks her, "How is that?" She replies, "This game is the only thing I excel at in my life, so if I lose, I will have nothing left to do in this life, so I will bet my life." The king says to her, "Clearly, it was your determination that was missing." Immediately, he cuts off his right hand as compensation. Boff is shocked by the scene and rushes to treat the king, but the king tells the girl, "Let's continue the game." Boff tries to resume his treatment, but the king strikes him and says, "Don't interrupt me. Let's continue the game." Boff informs him that he will call Beto to treat him, but the king refuses. However, the girl refuses to continue playing without treating his injury. Indeed, Beto arrives and treats him while he plays, but for him to heal, he needs a full 3 hours. During that time, Beto cannot use her nen or move her doll. Boff uses his nen until the king's healing is complete, but it won't be as powerful as Beto's nen. At that moment, Morau and Noff notice that Beto's doll has suddenly stopped. Noff approaches the palace and notices that there are no nen users around. If Beto resumes using nen, no one will be able to approach the palace. Noff plans 3 exits from the palace through its gates. He places his hand on the ground, creating a nen void he can exit from at any time, and then re-enters the void. The first entrance he uses is at the palace gate, and in that atmosphere, there are only 3 people in the palace. The head of state, who has already died and is being controlled by Beto, the professional players, and the state minister, responsible for all internal and external transactions. Since the ants couldn't replace him, he is the only one who can approach the king, but all he cares about is browsing a collection of girls on sale to enjoy himself. Among those images is a picture of Palm, who is taking advantage of this opportunity to enter the palace after joining the hunter's plan. We return to Noff, who has successfully sneaked into the palace courtyard to find 10 massive trees in front of the palace, bearing large fruits. It turns out that these fruits are the humans chosen on the first day, and because Killua was involved in the selection process, it only lasted 1 day. Most likely, they will be used as human weapons by the king, through Beto, who controls them. Noff creates the first exit, then goes to the palace square and creates another exit. He then enters the palace, and when he does, he finds no one there. So he plans to place the last exit next to the main staircase of the palace on the upper floor. But on his way there, he encounters an ant soldier, swiftly takes him out, hides the body, and then heads to the stairs. However, he feels a terrifying sensation and a massive nen aura, so he immediately hides. It turns out this is Boff's nen, and Noff cannot get any closer. Otherwise, Boff will sense him. He decides to create the last exit next to the main staircase and escapes. But as he exits the palace, he sees several trucks entering, realizing that one of those trucks contains a group of women, including Palm. The Prime Minister tells the workers to leave this truck and take the others, then takes this truck away to an underground warehouse, a place equipped for those women to live in. At that time, Noff has managed to escape, but his mental state is low, feeling terrified, all because of seeing Boff's aura. He only thinks of his student Palm and prays for her to be safe, as he felt that fear with just one glance. What will her fate be? How were Gon and Killua able to withstand a powerful aura like Beto's while still determined to fight? Noff cries heavily as his spirit has been crushed. Meanwhile, Palm is examining the area to find a way to reach the king or his guards, and if she is discovered, she will have to kill herself. She goes to the minister but manages to put him to sleep, leaving only a few hours before he wakes up. As a result of using her technique and monitoring the minister's movements, she manages to escape from that place and ascend to the ground floor, starting to explore the palace to go to the same place. On another side of the story, Killua wakes up to find himself in a hospital with the octopus beside him, realizing he has been unconscious for 2 days. He gets up and wants to leave, but the nurse tells him he can't go until he pays the hospital fees. He tells her he will pay later and that he doesn't have the money right now, as he is in a hurry. But she refuses to let him go, so he calls Gon and asks him to transfer some money, or he won't be able to leave. Later, he calls Gon Morau to tell him that he knows from him that Noph has retired after seeing the royal guard's aura in the palace, but there has been no change in the plan. At that time, Killua is preparing to leave after all his wounds have fully healed. He leaves, but stops to ask the octopus, "Aren't you coming with me, octopus?" The octopus asks him if he will take him with him. Killua replies, "You don't need to ask. I expected we had already become friends." He leaves with him to meet Gon, Shout, Knuckle, and the lizard to devise a plan. Meanwhile, the king is still playing with the girl, but she asks him for a break. The king agrees and lets her go, but before she leaves, he asks her name, and she replies that her name is Komugi. She then asks him for his name, a question that strikes the king like lightning, as he himself does not know what his name is. The king calls his guards and asks them for his name, and they tell him he is the king. Boff tells him they don't know anything else besides that, but Beto tells him that the most important thing is your feelings, so you can call yourself whatever name you want. The king tells them that power has many forms, and during his journey, he killed a small child who might have had the ability to surpass him in some area, yet he simply eliminated him. He took the soul of an innocent child for no reason. What is this power? I appear without warning to take the lives of the weak. This is a special power. Violence is the absolute force in this world. Then he approaches Komugi to kill her, but he finds a bird attacking her, so the king rushes to save her and asks her why she didn't ask for help. She replies that she didn't want to bother them. The king tells her that she is not a source of annoyance, and he is astonished by what he is saying. How can he say this when he wanted to kill her? Then Komugi cries and tells him that he is the first person to care about her, and this concern makes the king, for the first time in his life, feel affected and unsure of what to do with her. On the other hand, just one day before the raid, Gon, Killua, and the octopus wake up early in the morning and gather to review the plan. As soon as they leave, Gon and Killua will head up the main staircase to go to the king, while the octopus will use the elevator to descend to the warehouse to rescue Palm. Since Pitu's aura dominates the palace, they will track it until they reach her. After that, they will regroup with the rest of the team as the battle is drawing closer. There are only a few hours left until the selection process begins. The residents are on their way to the palace, and the hunters are entering a special room prepared by Nob, as they need to monitor the palace before the raid. Therefore, they need an exit far from the palace, but if they leave from there, they won't return until midnight, which means that if they gather any information, they won't be able to benefit from it. At that moment, Nob appears and says to them, "Let me handle this task. I'm the only one who can move freely outside the room." He goes up to the surface and sees Puff in a butterfly position, spreading his wing scales over the residents. It becomes clear that these scales are what hypnotize the residents and make them lose consciousness. He returns to the rest of the group to tell them what he saw, and this is beneficial for them, as it will calm the residents and prevent them from being an obstacle during their chaos and the many casualties that could occur. At that point, there are still 6 hours until the raid. Nov goes to continue monitoring the situation outside, and the hours pass, leaving only 10 minutes until the raid begins. They exit the room to observe the palace from a distance, and they all choose the last exit, which is closest to the throne room. At that time, meanwhile, Gon and the rest of the team return to the room and prepare for the raid. The countdown begins, and they are all on high alert for the legendary battle. In those moments, Pitu senses an unknown enemy approaching from the sky and directs her Nen upward to sense the incoming danger. To her surprise, a massive dragon appears, ridden by 2 people, heading toward the palace to attack it. It turns out that these 2 people are President Isaac Netero and Killua's grandfather, both experienced elders launching the attack. But suddenly, the dragon disintegrates into a massive number of light meteors. At that moment, Gon and the rest of the team launch a full-scale attack on the palace. Pitu charges all her senses and attacks them, but she doesn't know who she's facing until she finds a human standing firm amidst the meteors, and it is President Netero. After Killua's grandfather activates his technique, Pitu heads toward them and activates the strongest level of her NN to find President Netero facing her, who uses his super technique, moving so fast that time seems to stop as he attacks her, and she cannot fend off this attack. She flies at full speed and calls for Puff to help her, but he cannot. Instead, he goes to protect the king. Pitu has no choice but to use her healing techniques, which are connected to her, preventing her from flying or moving away. At the same time, inside the palace, a confrontation is about to happen between Yugi and Gon's team. Yugi prepares and sprouts additional arms from his body, ready for battle, but before anyone can move, the light meteors rain down on them, causing widespread destruction that scatters everyone except for 2, Gon and Yugi. Gon charges forward, and Killua follows after assessing the situation, while Shout gathers his courage to follow follow them as well. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Yugi receives a hidden blow to his body from the combined efforts of Knuckle and the lizard, and Knuckle activates the magical technique he previously used on Gon, but this time it's hidden. Yugi doesn't understand what's happening to him, but he feels no harm in his body and decides to continue. At that moment, a large number of eyes emerge from his head so he can face them all at once. In that moment, Pitu unleashes her aura with all her might toward the palace to locate the king and reunite with him. As soon as she touches the ground, she rushes toward the palace. Here, she feels the strongest negative energy she could ever sense, which is the king's aura, reflecting the sadness within him. Pitu enters to see the king holding Komugi, who is bleeding and injured in his hands. Both Netero and Killua's grandfather are shocked by the scene before them. The king addresses Netero and Killua, saying, "Let's change the location." The moment Pitu uses her techniques, the king passes between Netero and Killua's grandfather without them noticing. We return to Yugi, who notices the team's tension, and he completely destroys the staircase, resulting in Shout breaking his leg. Morale forms soldiers from smoke and attacks Yugi with them, sneaking up from behind to strike, but Yugi intimidates him and deflects the attack, discovering that the Morale who attacked him was just a smoke clone, not the real one. He goes back to his position but receives an attack from Nakle that stops him in his tracks. After the destruction of the piece, Gon and Killua headed towards the throne to confront Pitu. On their way, they encountered the octopus, who was on his way to the elevator to rescue Palm. So far, the plan was going smoothly, but Killua found 2 ant soldiers in front of the elevator, which would serve as an obstacle for the octopus. This made him change direction immediately to deal with them before heading to catch up with Gon. Along the way, an ant soldier witnessed everything that happened and realized he had been betrayed. After that, he headed to the elevator and went to Palm's location. At that moment, the royal guard Boff had reached Morao's location, crying and distressed over his failure to protect the king. Gon had arrived and saw Morao's technique spreading in the throne room, realizing that the king and Pitu were not in that room. He then found Nitro and Killua's grandfather exiting one of the towers beside him. Nitro told him that his opponent was waiting for him inside, referring to Pitu. At that time, Gon was at the peak of his power, and when Killua arrived, he saw his grandfather using his technique Dragon Head, which allowed him to transport himself, the king, and President Nitro to a remote, uninhabited place to fight. Shout was fighting, risking his life desperately to distract Yugi and delay him. He felt a great danger just from taking one of Yugi's eyes. But while Shout was taking hits, Knuckles stood still, with the lizard attached to him, unsure of what to do, because any movement would reveal his presence to the enemy. He cried for not being able to help his teammate, and at that moment, the size of the doll increased, realizing that this fight had lasted only 10 seconds. Meanwhile, Gon and Killua finally entered to face Pitu, their eyes filled with immense hatred and anger. Gon activated his aura, charged with a massive amount of energy, and said, "Do you remember me or not? I'm Gon Freecss, and I'm here to get Kaido back." But Pitu didn't care about his words. Her main concern was protecting Komugi. Killua sensed something strange about her and thought to himself, why isn't she using her aura? Her appearance now resembled that of a mother, sacrificing everything to protect her children. But Pitu was not the type to do such things. He then understood that this girl was someone precious to the king and had been injured in the attack, so she was healing her. At that time, Gon imagined the girl in Kaito's form, and Pitu. She was adjusting his body, and he said to her, "Stay away from the girl." Pitu spread her arms and surrendered, pleading with him to wait until she healed her. Gon exploded with rage, and his aura erupted with him, shouting at her, "Are you mocking me? Stay away from her and come out with me right now." Killua went to calm Gon down, only to find Pitu saying to him, "I'll do whatever you want, but please wait a moment. I must heal her no matter the cost." Gon replied, "Heal her? How can someone like you save another person?" Killua wanted to speak, but Gon interrupted him, saying, "I'm the one talking here." He directed his words to Pitu, asking her, "Who is this girl you want to save so badly?" She told him the truth, and at that moment, Gon repeated her words, unable to comprehend the reality. He got angry at her and said, "Where do you get the audacity? How can I believe someone like you?" He became furious and prepared to attack her, but Killua stopped him, saying, "Pitu isn't lying. She really wants to save this girl, so let's wait for her." But Gon was full of questions. "How can you believe that filthy creature will do what we want? Are you mocking me, Killua? How can you think that? How can you trust her? It's impossible for me to do something like that." Pitu broke her arm and shattered it completely, saying to him, "You can take my arm, and if that's not enough, I'll give you both my legs. And if you think I'll betray you, you can take every bone in my body as long as you let me save her." At that moment, all meanings of loyalty to the king were revealed in her devotion. Gon got angry and said, "What is this injustice? Why are you the one helping her after everything you've done to Kato?" He shouted at the top of his lungs, causing his aura to spread everywhere, but he was not convinced and prepared to use his Jonkin to finish her off. But Killua intervened and said to him, if you kill her, we won't be able to bring Kaido back forever. Gon canceled his Jonkin and directed his words to Killua, saying, of course, this isn't your business. At that point, Killua tried to protect his feelings from those words and said to him, I wouldn't have said that to you if you hadn't lost control. Gon shouted at him, saying, get out of this, but Killua didn't respond. Gon said, I'll leave, and directed his words to Pitu, asking her, when will you finish what you're doing? She replied that she needed 3 hours to heal everything, but he responded that he wouldn't wait that long. She replied that she only needed 1 hour to treat her serious injuries. Pitu begged him, and Gon answered, you have 1 hour to heal her, and then you will come with me to heal Kaido. She swore to him that she wouldn't break her promise no matter what happened, and he sat in front of her for a full hour until she finished her treatment. Meanwhile, the octopus heads to the girls' room to search for Palm. Finding a written message in the room stating that she has gone to the palace, the octopus rushes back to the elevator, only to find an ant soldier waiting for him, having been tracking him. The ant soldier asks the octopus, are you done with what you were doing? But the octopus doesn't understand what he means. The soldier opens fire with his gun, shooting several rounds at the octopus, but he manages to hide under a truck. The ant soldier goes back up in the elevator, but he doesn't know that the elevator requires a password. He tries to enter it, but makes a mistake and gets trapped inside. At that point, the octopus rushes to the control room. On the other hand, Morao stands in front of Boff's cocoon, unsure of what to do. After much thought, he finally decides to attack the cocoon, but he doesn't find Boff in front of him. He dispels the smoke prison and finds Boff outside, who then flies into the air and splits himself into many particles. Meanwhile, 2 ants are trying to escape, but they find the minister and rescue him after he promises them that he will give them all the treasures he has in the vault. Meanwhile, Boff is trying to sneak up on Gon to attack him, but Bito tells him, stay in your place. Boff's anger shows as he says, why aren't you responding to me? She tells him that Gon has already noticed his presence, and if he tries to attack him, he will then attack Komugi and kill her. So, he needs to handle the situation, and she will leave. But he doesn't respond to her, saying, try to leave, and then you'll see what happens to you. Boff can't believe what he hears and wants to kill him, but Bito shows a serious demeanor, and he must listen to her for the sake of the king. Boff doesn't understand anything, but he tells Bito, I'll stay in my place on one condition. You tell me everything that's happening. Indeed, Bito begins to recount everything that has happened, hinting to him in the direction the king went. Boff immediately understands the hint, separating his living body from the version standing in front of them, but he needs time to gather enough energy to fight alongside the king. We return once again to Yugi, whose body is transformed into a new, energy-filled form as he tries to control this energy. His shape changes, and he becomes much faster, attacking the smoky copies one after another until only a few remain. He has only 4 minutes left before Morao's energy runs out, and Morao has also exhausted all his energy and can no longer move. Yugi finishes off the smoky copies and heads towards Morao, ready to kill him. But suddenly he disappears from in front of him. The lizard intervenes at the last moment. However, bloodstains appear on Yugi's scythe, and he realizes that he has been injured. He looks down at the ground, finds traces of blood, and follows them, almost reaching them when suddenly Knuckle appears and says, I'll fight you here and now. Yugi refuses but tells him, if you remove this doll, then we can talk. Everyone is shocked by this statement, as the disappearance of the doll would erase all their efforts to eliminate him. Knuckle is in a difficult position, and Morao screams at him, but he doesn't hear. The lizard rushes towards Knuckle to stop him, while Yugi heads towards Morao to finish him off. But Knuckle has already cancelled his technique, causing the doll to disappear. Knuckle sacrificed the plan for his master, crying in anger as he tells Yugi, I did what you asked, so fight me now. But Yugi bypasses him and decides not to harm them, ignoring the shock of Knuckle, Morao, and the lizard. He tells Knuckle, take your friend and treat him, and if you want to fight at any time, I'm here because you definitely won't be able to face me. He then leaves for the king's location. They are all in a state of shock, as they did not expect a guard of the king to leave them alive. On another curve of these conflicting events, both President Netero and the king arrive at the place where they will fight. But before the battle begins, the king says, I have learned that there are humans who deserve to live on this planet, and you are one of them. All I want now is for us to sit and discuss together. But the president does not have time for discussion and is ready to fight. Netero approaches him and performs his legendary technique, manifesting a giant statue from his Nen. He strikes him with the statue's hand, delivering a powerful blow, but the king rises again, sits down, and says, let's discuss. The president attacks him again with the statue's hand, but the king easily escapes his grasp. For the first time, Netero witnesses the king's aura. At that moment, a dangerous idea comes to Netero, and he says to the king, don't you want to know your real name? The king replies, how do you know my name? Netero responds, my followers were present when the queen took her last breaths, and her last words were, your name. So if you want to know your true name, defeat defeat me first. Finally, the king decides to fight him, taking the matter seriously, and both prepare for a real battle. Who will win? One wonders. Knuckle arrives at the location of Boff, Gon, and Pitu, and says to Boff, "Why are you here? Come and fight me." Boff keeps stalling, but Gon exposes his lies and reveals all his tricks. At that point, Boff realizes how dangerous Gon is, shatters himself, and escapes through the openings, telling Knuckle, "I'll wait for you outside for 10 minutes if you want to come." Pitu apologizes to Gon for what Boff did, saying, "I'm still here." Gon gets angry and tells her, 10 minutes have been deducted from your time, and that's for what your stupid friend did. Pitu is almost seething with rage. Gon tells Knuckle, "I'll be fine on my own. You go after Boff. And by the way, the king is heading south." When Pitu hears these words, she is shocked, as he has revealed her hint to Boff. The attack begins, and excitement ignites between them as thousands of powerful and determined blows are exchanged. But then comes the decisive moment when the king manages to cut off Nitro's left arm. The king sits down and says to him, "Now tell me what my name is." Nitro replies, "You're mistaken if you think I can't attack with one hand." He unleashes his strongest technique, trapping the king between the hands of a statue, channeling all the aura he possesses into a single beam of light that destroys everything. The place becomes completely devastated, and Nitro's powers are unleashed, leaving him unable to move afterward. Shock appears on his face as the king emerges, having survived the explosion with only minor injuries, and says to him, "You are the one who lost. I am the king of ants, the strongest being in existence." "Now tell me my name, Nitro," he says, laughing a terrifying laugh. Nitro responds, "Don't underestimate the human race, Meruem." The king is taken aback but doesn't get the chance to respond. Nitro, shouting, tells him, "You know nothing about the limitless power of humans in evolution." For the first time, the king feels fear in his heart due to Nitro's aura and the look on the president's face that shows how serious he is. After that, the president kills himself with a bomb inside him that only activates when his heart stops. The king tries to escape the bomb's explosion, which obliterates everything in the area like a nuclear bomb. On the other side, Yugi and Boff arrive at the explosion site, and Boff seems to have lost hope in the king. Yugi says to him, "I'll go inside and look for him. You stay outside and check the area." They continue searching until Yugi finds him, but it's too late. The king has lost all his limbs, and there is no hope for his survival. Both of them burst into tears over the king, but he is still breathing. Boff says he will save him by converting his cells into aura, because the king can absorb the aura from the person he feeds on. The king's cells come back to life, and he awakens. But Boff's aura alone is not enough, so Yugi tries to convert his own cells into liquid for the king to drink to regain his strength, and he comes back much stronger. But the problem is that all his memories are jumbled, and he remembers nothing except that these two are his royal guards, named Yugi and Boff, who tells him that the best way to recover those memories is to return to the palace. Boff then has an idea. Since his memories are not clear right now, he rushes to the palace and gets rid of Komugi so the king won't get attached to her again. Boff didn't expect the king to go to the palace so easily. It becomes clear that after his revival, the king manifests wings from Yugi's technique to fly there, and now he can use both of their abilities just like them. Boff reaches the palace at a breakneck speed, with only 3 minutes to get rid of Komugi. He enters the throne room but finds Knuckle hiding in front of him. The doll appears on Boff's body, and the king is making his way to the palace. Palm sees him through her technique and warns everyone, telling them he is still alive and on his way here. This means the president has been defeated. After that, Killua takes Komugi and escapes with her, but Boff's form manages to find them, and Killua, using his incredible speed, escapes with the girl far from the palace to protect her from the king. Meanwhile, the king arrives and sees the crowd gathered for him, feeling like he has forgotten something important and can't remember what it is. He asks them where he spent most of his time, and Boff's copies respond that that place has been completely destroyed, but the king wants to see it for himself, hoping he might remember something. Boff's copies go and try to erase any traces that might remind him of Komugi. At that time, Gon had reached the capital and entered Kaido's location. Pitu receives a call from one of the ant soldiers, the one the octopus shot with fire. He tells her they have recovered Komugi, and she hears her voice herself to confirm it. All of this was part of Boff's plan to make her kill Gon, as Boff went to that soldier and changed his voice to Komugi's to relieve Pitu's worry about her and make her eliminate Gon. They arrive at Kaito, and Gon says to her, "Return, Kaito, to me, as you promised." Pitu replies, "Remind me who you are again." Gon is astonished by her, and she says to him, "You responded to my request, so I will be honest with you." She tells him that Kaito died after his battle with her, and she cannot revive the dead. Her ability only works on controlling corpses. Gon silently cries, overwhelmed by feelings of hopelessness and despair. He remembers his moments with Kaito and blames himself for what happened to him. A part of him blames himself, while another part says Pitu is to blame. He finds himself in a struggle, not knowing what to do. At that moment, Pitu activates her special technique, and Gon thinks she is healing Kaido, but in reality, she is healing her arm to kill him. At that time, Palm was watching Gon and telling Killua what was happening, while Killua couldn't understand how Pitu could do that. Komugi was in their possession, and a copy of Boff appeared, telling them that Pitu believed Komugi was with him, claiming he was the only one who could stop Pitu, so they should hand over the girl to him. Killua didn't wait for Boff to finish speaking before he lunged at him and crushed him, asking Palm to take care of the girl, and he dashed at super speed toward Gon, hoping nothing would happen to him before he reached him. Meanwhile, Gon was sitting in front of Pitu, feeling hopeless. She had finished her treatment and told him, "I'm sorry, Gon, but you must die." He replied despairingly, "Aren't you going to treat Kaido?" She told him that Kaido was already dead. A flame of hatred and anger ignited within him. He knew she was lying, and a sinister aura emanated from him, enveloping his entire body. The place shook from the power of his aura, and he didn't care if this was his end. Pitu's eyes were filled with terror at the Gon before her. Gon's hair grew and his form changed, all in the pursuit of completely eliminating Pitu. Pitu thought to herself, "Just as I expected, your current power is on par with the king's. Gon's power has become immense and knows no bounds." At that moment, Gon vowed to himself that he would take the most severe revenge on her. Pitu, preparing her combat technique, gathered all her energy and charged at him, but he vanished in the blink of an eye, only to reappear again. He said, "Let's go outside. I don't want to destroy this place." They went outside and faced each other. She tried to attack him, but to no avail, and he delivered a powerful blow that sent her flying. He prepared his Jonken, but this time with unmatched strength, striking her in the middle of her head. At that moment, Pitu felt relief for the first time. She was the one who would die, not the king. At that time, Killua had arrived and saw Gon in his new form, delivering consecutive blows to Pitu, using Janken to finish her off for good. Killua called out to Gon, only to see him crying. Gon had finally avenged Kaito, but the story wouldn't end there. Pitu's technique activated again and attacked Gon. Killua rushed to save him, but he couldn't reach him in time, causing Gon's arm to be severed. It became clear that Pitu's loyalty to the king had transformed her aura after her death into something that targeted Gon to eliminate him, so she could protect the king from facing him. Gon told Killua not to worry about him, saying, "I don't feel pain. I now feel the same as Kaido did before he died." He then grabbed his severed arm and let out a loud scream, launching it toward Pitu and striking her with it. After that, he activated Jonken, which unleashed immense power from the severed arm, hitting Pitu's body. Killua tried to stop him to prevent this overwhelming force from destroying him, but Gon looked at Killua with a farewell glance. Killua shouted at him, causing this power to explode, resulting in a massive blast in the area. Meanwhile, the king was wandering around the palace, hoping to remember what was occupying his mind. He recalled the intruders and went to search for them and interrogate them, using his nen to illuminate the entire place. He then approached Knuckle and the lizard, knocking them unconscious, and Knuckle's technique was nullified, and they were taken to the palace in hopes of interrogating them later. As for the octopus and Palm, they went to hide beneath the palace, hoping the king's nen wouldn't reach them. They placed Komugi in one of the minister's houses and left her there. After that, they asked the soldier who confronted the octopus to inform the king of the girl's location. Palm finally realized that this girl was the turning point of the battle. At that time, on the palace roof, Boff was shocked to see Yugi lying on the ground, lifeless, and rushed to inform the king. Palm used her ability and learned from him that Yugi had died. She descended to devise a plan for victory, with the foundation of this plan being Komugi, for after several hours, the king would die. After a while, Boff felt a strange sensation and coughed up blood, realizing that the bomb detonated by Netero was poisonous. Therefore, Boff understood with certainty that the king's end was near. He concealed the truth from the king, who saw an ant soldier and approached him, asking if he was the one who killed Yugi. The soldier replied that he hadn't done that, but he told him he had a message for him, but he had fallen dead. Boff appeared and tried to move the ant soldier away from the king so that the king wouldn't learn about the girl. In the midst of their conversation, the king looked at the soldier and said, "I'm hungry," causing the soldier to feel terrified, thinking he would be the one to be fed upon. In his sheer terror, he uttered the name of the girl, Komugi, and as soon as the king heard that name, he recalled his memories with her. At the same time, the poison was coursing through his veins, and he was on the verge of death. The king learned from the soldier that she was in the basement, thanked him, and went to her location. The king descended to the basement and spread his nen in the form of particles to find Palm, and he indeed found her hiding behind a door. He told her from behind the door that the battle had indeed ended, and that he had come here for one reason only. He wanted to sit for a while with this human, as he no longer had enough time for that. At that moment, the king was about to bow, but Palm agreed to fulfill his request, stepping out, her body resembling that of an ant, crying because she knew the king's importance to the ant race. She told him she agreed to his request, but she had to witness his last moments with the girl. girl. The king agreed, and Palm informed him of her location. At the same time, Boff had lost his life, and the only one left alive was the king. Komugi woke up and prepared the game to start playing with the king, who told her he had been poisoned and no longer had time. He told her he wanted to spend his last moments with her, but if he stayed with her too long, the poison would transfer to her and she would die. Komugi continued to play with him, saying she now felt she was in the best moments of her life. The king was moved and felt he had been born only to experience that moment. They continued playing until they reached a point where they could no longer play, and the Ant King Meruem died in Komugi's arms in a chilling manner. Thus, the catastrophe known as the Chimera Ants came to an end. At that time, Killua had taken Gon and brought him to the hospital, as did Knuckle and Nav, to check on him. The doctor informed them that his condition was critical and that they were unable to do anything for him. Nav told him he would contact specialists to come and save him, and all he cared about was that he woke up, even if it meant he would have to rebuild the hospital from scratch. No matter what happened, they wouldn't abandon Gon. Meanwhile, Killua was sitting in front of his room, deeply saddened. He had wanted to be by his side during the fight with Pitu, at least to help him control the rage that had blinded him. He stood in front of his room, crying, vowing to save him. Then Nove came and asked him, "Are you coming with us or not? We're going to gather the best team of doctors to help Gon." To which Killua replied, "You go and gather your team. I will save Gon my way." From another perspective, the situation had calmed down a bit in the country of Angel. Some ants had merged with humans, while others had remained independent. The death of President Netero was announced, and hunters were called to elect a new president for the Hunter Association. As for Morau, who was still receiving treatment, he called Colt and asked about the embryo, who informed him that it had grown and was now calling itself Kato. When Morau heard this, he rushed to tell Killua. Shout was also being treated in the hospital, with a lizard by his side to check on him. The strongest hunters gathered in preparation for the election process, and finally, Gon Freecss, Gon's father, appeared. It became clear that the group of hunters consisted of 12 hunters, each possessing unique abilities, and the president had previously acknowledged them. The 12 hunters gathered, and the meeting began with the vice president, named Pariston. Jin announced his candidacy, but Pariston provoked him by saying, "I heard your son is in the hospital. I was thinking of visiting him. I don't want to waste my time. I heard he's on the verge of death." Jin replied, "Go visit him. I'm sure he won't die." They continued the meeting and decided on the method for the elections, which would be through a draw. Each of them would take a paper and start writing the rules they wanted, after which the president's assistant would draw one of the papers. When he looked at Jin, it turned out to be his paper. The rules written on it were as follows. Rule 1. All elected hunters are candidates for election. Rule 2. The candidate who wins the election with 50% of the votes will have the top 16 ranked individuals revote, and if the situation repeats, a revote will occur each time. Rule 3. If the number of votes is less than 95% of the participants, a revote will occur. Rule 4. All voters must write their names on the ballots. Anonymous ballots will be void. Rule 5. The head of the election committee is Gon Freecss. At that time, Pariston objected to Rule 5, and Jin also agreed to cancel it. Everyone was surprised at how easily he could cancel a rule he had established. It became clear 2 days before the meeting that Jin went to the assistant to tell him he wanted to place a bundle of papers like the one in front of him on the day of the meeting, and to put the same basket from which the selection would be made on that day. He wrote the rules on the paper and handed it to the assistant, saying, "Read these rules, and if you agree with them, fold this paper 3 times and bring it with you to the meeting. As for Rule 5, if I agree to cancel it, they will have no choice but to accept the other rules. This means that to be a hunter, the prey comes to you, and you don't go to it." He wasn't doing this out of a desire to be president, but rather for the enjoyment of it, nothing more. The voting process for the hunters began, and the hunters gathered to start the election. Among these hunters was Hisoka, who didn't care about the matter, but was there to see the professional hunters and leaders because he was interested in fighting them. He went and sat in the front rows, but suddenly he felt a strong presence approaching, which turned out to be Illumi. The voting ended, and it became clear that the participation rate was less than 95%, so a revote would take place again. Due to a large number of anonymous votes, they decided to revoke the hunting license from anyone who used anonymous ballots. Illumi met with Hisoka on one of the rooftops and explained to him what happened to Gon, and that Killua was on his way to talk to their father to save him, but Illumi would stop him, and Hisoka didn't understand anything. At that time, Killua went to his father and told him he wanted to meet his little sister because he needed her strength, but his father told him that she was not human and could not be considered a member of their family. Killua got angry and said, "How can you say that? She is one of us." But his father told him that this being came from another place, from outside the world. Killua told his father that the only person who could help him was his sister, and reminded him of the promise he made earlier that he would not betray his friends. He said, "If I have a way to help him and I don't do it, then that's not betrayal." Killua's words affected his father, who said to him, Come with me. This girl is named Aluka, and she is the youngest member of the Zoldyck family, possessing a terrifying supernatural ability. To use this ability, she must fulfill 3 requests that she makes. Her eyes change shape and turn black when she asks for any wish she wants, and she will fulfill it. After that, her eyes return to normal. But the problem is that there are no limits to these requests. She can ask to take a part of your body, and if her request is not met, the person making the wish will explode in front of her. Not only that, but the person they love the most will also die, so at least 2 people will die. Therefore, they decided to isolate her far away from people. Killua went to her, unable to believe how she had been left alone in this place all those years. He entered, and when she saw him, she ran to him and hugged him. He played with her, and she made her requests, which he fulfilled. Now he could make a wish of his own. On the other hand, Illumi was explaining to Hisoka about his sister. Illumi's goal was to kill Aluka to protect the Zoldyck family, as she would pose a danger to them if Killua failed. Because if he did that, he would die, and everyone he loved would die too. We return to Killua, who has set his own security conditions because he knows his sister's abilities. To heal someone, she must touch their body, so he wants to take her to Gon, carry her, and head towards the door, asking his father to open it, but his father refuses. He tells his sister, if we don't leave this place in half an hour, then kill mom. Killua uses a threatening tone. They are all in shock, and his sister responds to his wish, her eyes changing, leaving his father with no choice but to open the door for them to exit. His sister returns to her normal self and kisses him on the cheek, and in that moment, he vows to save Gon and free his sister. Killua calls Morao and learns that they brought a Nen remover for Gon, but she was terrified and said it was impossible to remove the Nen from him. Killua knew they wouldn't be able to treat him through normal means. He tells Morao, leave this to me. I have a way to ensure Gon's treatment. But the only problem he faces is how he will get there. Morao was about to tell him how, but the head servant cut off the call to Killua, informing him that his father had declared a level 4 alert, meaning that once he leaves the Zoldyck territory, he would be under surveillance, and if there was any breach, they would capture him and bring him back home. The head servant, Goto, goes with him along with Canary and 2 other women, one young and the other old, and they set off on their journey. At that moment, Leorio calls Killua, and Goto answers saying, we're on our way to you, but we have some conditions you need to fulfill. Leorio yells at him, what? There are conditions to save a friend? Goto replies, Fukibo is risking his life. He defied all his family's orders and came to you against their will. Killua takes the phone from Goto, calms the situation, and tells Leorio that he is on his way, but can't share any more details. So trust me, and I want you to do what Goto says. Goto takes the phone back and tells Leorio, when we get there, I don't want anyone else in the room with Gon. We want Gon to be the only person in the building. Leorio screams at him, are you crazy? Don't you know this is a hospital with many sick people, doctors, and others? How can we do that? But Morao takes the phone from Leorio and tells him that this hospital is very large, and it has a spacious parking area, so they will create a private room for Gon there, and ensure that no one knows what will happen in that room. Goto agrees, and Morao calls Nav to prepare the room for Gon. On the other hand, at the Hunter Association, the leaders come out to explain the importance of the elections, and Leorio raises his hand to talk to Gon Freecss, asking him why he hasn't gone to see Gon yet. Jin replies, I know he has many friends like you. You are enough. Leorio gets angry, and yells at him, don't you know how much Gon wants to see you? He might wake up from his coma just by hearing your voice. Jin coldly responds, did he ask me to come to him? Leorio explodes with anger, using his Nen to strike him hard. The voter turnout then rises to the required percentage, and the first 16 candidates are taken, with Leorio being among them in 3rd place. All the participants were impressed by him after what happened in the election hall. At that time, Illumi calls Goto, who hands the phone to Killua saying, I removed the needle, which means I won't hesitate to kill you. Killua scoffs and tells Illumi, it's forbidden for family members to kill each other. At that moment, Killua realizes Illumi's intention, which is that he will kill Aluka. Killua gets angry and demands that Illumi come to him, to which Illumi replies, let's begin. A massive truck suddenly appears in front of them and collides with their car. Canary tries to escape, but there are many cars controlled by Illumi, and they pounce on them. She manages to veer off the road, but an iron truck is waiting for them. The truck hits them, and the panels break apart, striking the car, but Killua and the others manage to survive. The car falls off the cliff, and all the while, Illumi and Hisoka are watching the scene from a distance. Illumi asks Hisoka to deal with the servants while he takes care of Killua, telling him to be ready at the right moment to kill Aluka. Hisoka asks Illumi to kill Killua himself, which angers Illumi, and his sinister aura appears as Hisoka says, it was just a joke. At that moment, Killua feels Illumi's thirst for blood. They start to move, but Killua doesn't trust the servants. One of them says to him, we are not your enemies. Our only mission is to bring you home safely. Killua stops and tells them, if this doesn't involve Aluka, then you are all my enemies. He uses his special technique and disappears, but the other guard follows him. Goto calls them at home and tells them about the situation, but suddenly they feel someone approaching, revealing that it is Hisoka attacking them. Goto blocks all his attacks and tells the other servants to go look for Killua while he handles it alone. Goto attacks using fake coins, but Hisoka deflects them with his aura. The coins start spinning, causing Hisoka's aura to shrink. He attacks again, but Hisoka removes his aura and suddenly disappears, moving around at super speed, using the coins to attack Goto, who defends against the attack. Hisoka suddenly appears above him and slits his throat. Meanwhile, Killua continues to flee with his sister, but she says to him, "Am I a nuisance to you? If I disappeared, would you all be better off?" Killua replies, "If I were the only one who loves you in this universe, would that make you sad?" At that moment, she is happy with Killua's words, and he hugs her, telling her that from now on, he will stay with her and will never leave her. But suddenly he feels another person approaching, so he takes his sister and continues on his way, using his technique to speed away. The elderly maid calls the other two maids to reach her, using her ability to transform into steam, as she has the power to turn herself into any vehicle and uses the maid's aura as fuel. When they catch up to him, Killua takes another route to escape from them. The old woman insists that she will get to his destination before him. When he arrives at the airport, he finds that they are waiting for him, trying to convince him that they are on his side, not against him. They have prepared a balloon for him to take to his friend. He tells them, "We'll need more than one balloon to distract Illumi." The two maids go to prepare the balloon, but he takes advantage of the situation and escapes with Aluka, boarding one of the balloons. Illumi arrives and sees 8 balloons in the sky. He decides to use his special needles, which he has wrapped in his aura. If he stabs someone with them and gives them specific commands, they will follow those commands until they die. He launches them at people in the streets, and then he begins to control them. This is Illumi's technique known as the Needlemen. Killua contacts Morale and tells him everything, asking him to gather a group of hunters to pursue the Needlemen. If Illumi has injured someone and they haven't been treated yet, then they have the right to pursue Illumi, even though he is a hunter. This is because the 4th commandment of the 10 commandments for hunters states that a hunter cannot pursue another hunter. However, this does not apply to hunters who commit brutal acts and harm civilians. Therefore, a group of hunters is assembled, led by 3 candidates for election. At the same moment they set off, Illumi releases the Needlemen and asks Hisoka to eliminate the hunters. Meanwhile, the 3 candidates announce their alliance with each other to change the rules of the 10 commandments. In the 5th vote for president, Pariston comes in first, but he does not receive the required percentage of votes, so there will be a revote with the top 8 candidates. After Hisoka finishes off the first group, he finds a map. He calls Illumi and asks if he wants the map, but Illumi clarifies that he doesn't need it because he already knows where Killua is and which balloon he is in. At that time, the old woman is watching Killua's balloon, but she senses someone nearby. She climbs one of the trees but doesn't see anyone. She calls for the maid and transforms herself into a plane to chase after Killua. Later, the 3 candidates receive news that the group of hunters they sent has been wiped out. At that moment, Killua calls Canary to prepare a car for him to get to the hospital. He lands in the area and indeed finds the car waiting for him. On their way, the car is stopped, and they find a group of Needlemen in front of them. He is shocked to discover that the driver is also one of the Needlemen. The Needlemen appear from everywhere and surround the car, and Illumi shows up with them, leaving Killua confused. He and his sister exit the car, and the old maid arrives, apologizing to him, saying it's her fault because his mother was watching Killua through her glasses and sending updates and pictures to Illumi. After that, Killua asks Aluka to transform into Nanika, the spirit that appears in Aluka when she transforms, saying, "Wish for anything you want, I will take care of it." At that moment, Hisoka is watching silently from a distance, waiting for Killua's reaction to eliminate Illumi. Killua asks Nanika to heal the old maid's nails after she requested to have them removed. Nanika approaches the old maid and heals her nails, and Killua tells them that Nanika is gifted in destructive power, so healing is not one of her strengths. After that, she goes to him, hugs him, and falls asleep. He tells them that the spirit calling him by name is Nanika, not Aluka. Since healing is not one of her strengths, that's why she falls asleep quickly, but he hasn't made any harsh requests after healing anything. The Cursed One is the one who makes the request, and he directs his words to Illumi, saying, "If you treat her as a tool again, I won't spare you." Illumi replies, "All right, as long as you'll heal Gon without risks." Then he leaves, and thus the threat of Illumi ends. But there's something they didn't know. Killua is capable of summoning Nanika and making more than one wish, but he won't reveal such a dangerous secret to them. After that, Killua heads to where his friends are outside the room, taking care of his protection, while Killua inside waits for his sister to wake up. On the other side, the voting process has ended without any candidate reaching the required percentage, and a revote will take place among the top 4 candidates, who will hold a debate to determine the president. No one will leave this conference without a final president being chosen. They start the speeches, and one of the candidates withdraws, giving his vote to another candidate because he believes she is suitable for the presidency, and it's her turn. However, the other candidate gives her votes to Leorio. Then it's Leorio's turn, and since he hasn't prepared a speech, he says everything on his mind, telling them that if he becomes president, the first thing he will do is save Gon. He expresses that he doesn't know why he's there, but while he was traveling to different places, Gon and his friends were fighting the ant soldiers and risking their lives, to the point that one of his friends is risking his life right now to save him, but he couldn't do anything. So, if he becomes president, he will do everything he can to save Gon. His emotions reach everyone in the room, and they start applauding him. Next comes Barristan, but he doesn't add anything new, and then it's time for the voting. The voting results are displayed on the screen, and Leorio is in first place, but he hasn't received enough votes to be in a runoff with Barristan. At that moment, Aluka wakes up, and Killua says to her, "My friend is about to die now." She looks at him and says, "You want to talk to Nanika?" The old maid is hiding, observing the situation, so his whole family is watching what's happening, including Illumi, who understands that Killua is the only one not bound by the rules. Then, Nanika appears, and Killua takes her to Gon, and she tells him she wants to hold his hand. Killua shows Gon's hand, and when she sees it, she's about to burst into tears at the sight, begging Nanika to return him to his normal state. Nanika begins to heal him, and a powerful aura surrounds the building from all sides, shaking the place with the strength of that aura to the point that the people in the voting area feel it. At that moment, Barristan smiles, because he understands everything. At the same time, Illumi gets excited by the amount of energy he sees and says he must get Aluka no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Barristan is stalling, trying to waste as much time as possible, continuing to do so until the door opens for Morao to enter and tell Leorio that everything went well. Gon enters through the door, and Leorio can't believe it. He rushes to him and hugs him while crying. Barristan and everyone in the room start applauding and cheering for Gon. Amidst the noise, Gon notices Jin sitting in the front row. This is what Gon has been waiting for. He will finally meet his father. He runs towards him, apologizes, and tries to tell him what happened to Kite, tears streaming down his face. Jin tells him, at that moment, "You're wrong. He took you with him because he believed in your abilities, and if he thought you would be a burden, he wouldn't have taken you in the first place. That was his mistake, because he underestimated the enemy, and your mistake too, because you're weak. If you want to apologize to someone, apologize to him. So, go now and apologize to him." Gon doesn't understand anything. Is that girl really Kite? He wants to stay and talk to his father, but Jin tries to evade him, but everyone in the conference hall is cheering for him to talk to his son, and under the pressure he says, "I'll be waiting for you." But before Barristan lets Gon go, he says to him, "Before you leave, vote for one of us, me or Leorio." Gon chooses Barristan because he knows Leorio isn't aiming to be president from the start. Gon leaves the place, but before he goes, Jin tells him, "I'm the one who taught Kite Nen, and he has a specific weapon he uses when he doesn't want to die." After hearing this, Gon gets even more excited and rushes to meet Kite. At that time, Barristan is appointed president of the Hunter Association after receiving the required percentage of votes, but suddenly he appoints the girl who was one of the candidates as his vice president, then resigns to everyone's astonishment, especially Jin's. The girl follows him out and asks how he could do that, but he tells her he wasn't interested in the presidency from the start, and he was the one most affected by his death, entrusting her with the leadership. Then he left. We move to Illumi, who has discovered from all the previous events that if Killua is the one with the wish, that wish will be without cost. This is the secret that Killua has been hiding. Illumi enters and tries to manipulate Killua, as his goal is to control Aluka's power. Killua tells him he will protect Aluka himself. Killua calls Nanika and asks her to take Illumi home immediately. Suddenly, Illumi disappears, arriving at home where family members are also watching the situation. Then, Killua asks the two maids to leave them alone, and they do. Killua turns to Nanika and says, "No, I don't want you to show up again." She replies that she loves him. Killua tries to hold himself together but shouts at her, "Don't show up again. He doesn't want anyone else to exploit your abilities." Nanika hears his words and starts crying, then disappears. Aluka wakes up and asks him if he made Nanika cry, which angers her, saying, "She's still crying now, so if you want to treat me well, you have to treat her well too. And if you want to protect me, you have to protect Nanika too." At that moment, Killua realizes his mistake and hits himself, asking her to summon her again. He apologizes and says, "I will protect you, and we will stay together forever, so don't listen to anyone else but me, Nanika. I will do whatever you want, and I ask you to show up." Indeed, she appears again, and Killua cries, asking her if she will forgive him, to which she replies that she has forgiven him. Killua is moved and hugs her. On the other hand, Gon meets Kaito, who has grown up and remembers everything that happened to him. Gon apologizes, but Kaito gestures for him to come and sit in front of him, asking what he is apologizing for. Gon replies, "Because I couldn't fight by your side, and I lacked the strength, but next time, I will protect you." Kaito responds, "It's clear you did some crazy things to fight Pitu, but that doesn't change the fact that you managed to defeat an enemy I couldn't." He continues, saying, "I heard you talk to Jin, and I understood what you wanted to tell me. We are friends now, so go back to Jin." Gon returns, but he doesn't find his father. Instead, he finds a message from him saying he will wait for him at the top of the world tree. After that, Gon, Killua, and his sister go to the world tree, the tallest tree in the world, and they wander around the city where the tree is located, spending happy times together. Then Killua says, "My sister and I will stop here." Gon thanks him for everything, and Killua tells him that Aluka is the one who healed him. Killua takes Gon to a place away from people, and Nanaka appears, telling him she has the ability to grant any wish he asks for, and she was trapped at home, but because of you, she is free now. I am ready to spend my entire life now to protect her. They return to the tree, and Killua tells Gon that he will now travel everywhere with Aluka. Then comes the moment of farewell, with traces of sadness in both their eyes, and they each set off on their own paths. Gon then begins to climb the tree, continuing until he reaches the top, which has a very strange shape. He continues climbing and finds it to be a nest of some strange birds. There, he finds Gon Freecss sitting, and they talk together. Jin tells him about the reason he wanted to become a hunter. He explains that initially, his goal was to explore a tomb, and he started gathering his team and preparing for the exploration. After they managed to explore it, his best moment was when he looked at his companions and saw that they were all happy. He realized that his goal was of no value compared to the friends he had gained. At that moment, Gon remembers his friends and understands the meaning of his words. He asks his father, "Do you know the name of this tree?" Jin replies, "It's the world tree, the tallest tree in the world." Gon tells his father that this is not true. It's just a tree that stopped growing. The real tree is somewhere else, outside the boundaries of this world. And by that, I mean outside the map of the world you know. The ants you fought were also from outside the world we know. This world is just a part of another world. To get out of this world, you need some things you must know, which are the license, means, and qualifications. And the last thing is the contract. I don't have any of those, but I'm enjoying my journey, so I advise you to enjoy every step of your life, because you'll find other things more important than what you want. After that, Gon hands Jin the hunter card and tells him that Kaido asked him to give it to him when he met him. Then they sit together, each sharing their adventures with the other, smiles on both their faces.